In the first administrative department of the Knights of Argus, someone claims to have come for the anniversary celebration of the victory. He also inquires about how everything will be organized this year. The young lady claims she has already passed on all the subcontractor details to Ms. Miele, after which someone else says that she must be up to her neck in work and asks about costumes. The girl replies that Layla is running around to tailors, and Miele has prepared a list for her, after which more questions are asked. A little while later, someone approaches Lady Miele and suggests she take a break, at least during lunch. And is it really so urgent that she's doing this even during lunch? The young lady then claims that she was sorting through old papers and asks if she can help him, after which the guy replies that it can wait, because first she should eat. At this point, someone else approaches them and says they're talking about Mrs. Miele and that they're helpless without her. The guy then asks if she'll let him look at the papers after she's done with them. The girl agrees, and the other guy asks why Miele would give him the papers. After this, the brunette asks, what is so special about their Miele, who is a bright and kind person? But these papers would be very useful to him. The main character then asks if he really needs those papers too, after which the guy responds with a bit of puzzlement, that he would lend them to her. Then after that, a lady with red hair entered the room. She asks what everyone's gathered there for, and the young lady merely greets her. The woman then wonders if they're asking for Miele again. Do something for them. The young lady replies that it's nothing and everything is fine. Many of her interlocutors insist that they need to know how to refuse since she was late yesterday, after which she also asks what they should do with her. The young lady replies that everything is fine since there's less work on days like these. Then one of the guys asks if the lady has a boyfriend. He also asks if he could introduce her to someone. The red-haired lady tells the young lady that her older colleagues, instead of helping her with her work, are asking for something for themselves. That's why she's so busy. And the brunettes are even offering to introduce her to someone. Miele realizes she doesn't want a relationship now, and she doesn't want one later either. One of the guys, meanwhile, insists he's saying this because he's worried about her. If she doesn't want a relationship but they pester her, then it's already harassment, after which the main character just smiles. Well then, someone else turns to the young lady and asks if the guy's getting on her nerves yet. The young lady replies that he's fine and thanks him for his concern. Her colleague tells her to try to rest more, because he heard that when she arrived at the third department, she was always staying late, and at first he thought she was trying to get a promotion. She took on any job and even fulfilled the Count's personal requests. Well, she has problems in the family, so he understands everything perfectly, but still she needs to devote time to herself and her family. He's married and hasn't had any time, but then the guy tells her she doesn't have anyone. The young woman then thanks the Japanese man for his concern but insists she's fine. That same evening, the girl folds up the papers and thinks that she has also written a list of gifts, so she hopes she hasn't forgotten anything. The girl also asks if today is the Lantern Festival, after which he turns to the clock again and sees that it is already 10, so he understands that it is probably already over. Miele also thinks about what they have at home, and then remembers that Dennis is not having lunch at home tomorrow, so she can only cook for Selena. The young lady then recalls her colleague's words, that he understands that she has problems in her family, but that she should rest more and spend time with her family. The girl understands that she knows, but in order to spend more time with her family, she needs money. Most of the time, the young lady works overtime for the extra pay, but there is another reason. At this time, someone enters the room and claims that he was wondering who was there at such a time. The main character then turns around and is a little surprised, because it turns out to be the Count. The Count then comes closer, and the young lady claims that she was just about to give him the documents. She also apologizes if she kept him waiting, but the man claims that she is still sitting there. And how much longer does she have left? The young lady tries to say something after this, but is a little nervous, after which the Count asks if she has a free minute tomorrow, to which the girl replies that she does. And the brunette tells her not to plan anything for lunch, because let her have lunch with him. Miele understands that another reason why she has been working for so long is her unrequited love for the Count. A little while later, the girl returns home and tells her relatives about this. The girl then asks her sister how her day went, and then runs to hug her. The main character asks if they had dinner, to which the girl agrees, and her brother claims that he ate at work. Then Miele asks how his job is, and that it's not as dangerous as his old one. But the guy tells the girl to take better care of her sister. Then she asks her sister if something good happened to her today. The little girl also tells her sister that she looks happy today. But Miel replies that this is nonsense and says it's late, so everyone should go to bed. The next morning, the young lady realizes that she was unable to fall asleep, after which she tries on different outfits, and she thinks that the Count so suddenly invited her to dinner, so she wonders if something has really changed. When the main character leaves, she turns to her sister and brother and tells them not to forget lunch before leaving, to which the two agree. Miel also says she'll bring them lunch herself tomorrow and asks if her sister will take the laundry once it's dry. Dennis then tells her not to worry because they'll do everything. The main character then heads to work, but understands that she shouldn't expect much and that she'll be happy with just working together because she's happy to just be his subordinate. But a little while later, the girl drops her fork and then asks, "What did His Excellency just say?" But he only wonders if the girl didn't hear. And then he repeats that she should marry him. The main character then looks at the Count in shock. She understands that Bernard Arctis is a count who comes from the noble Arctis family, to which many empresses belonged. 8 years ago, under his command, a brilliant victory was won in the swamplands, and the Count returned from that war a hero. He saved many during the war, including her, so for her, he became not just a savior, but her master. The girl fell in love with him, and of course her feelings are not reciprocated. But now the man proposes that she marry him, which surprises the young lady, and she asks what came over him, and that she is just his administrative assistant. And she's a commoner after all, and she has no titles. The Count claims that status has absolutely nothing to do with it. And doesn't she remember what she said at the appointment a couple of months ago? The girl asks what exactly, after which the Count claims that she did say that she doesn't need a relationship either now or later. Miel thinks that this is all because they are always trying to set her up with some knight right under the Count's nose. So she blurted it out emotionally. The brunette then asks if that means she's single now, after which he asks why she doesn't marry him. The girl is silent for a moment, and then repeats the word. Well, he claims that for this to happen, people must love each other, and there must at least be mutual sympathy. So she thinks it's impossible and apologizes. The brunette replies that if people married only for love, no one would enter into political marriages. Miel is a smart girl, but she's surprisingly naive, after which he asks if she's ever been with anyone. The young lady remains silent about the brunette claiming that's exactly the problem. But after that, Miel says that yes, she's had plenty of men too. But then the girl thinks what an idiot she is and what she's saying. The Count then says that it's good, and that she should think about his proposal, because they will have a pleasant time in each other's company. And when the time comes, their paths will diverge. The young lady asks if he really means divorce. But the Count only says that he didn't say the most important thing, because he was proposing a marriage of convenience. In 3 years, he will hand over the county to his nephew. She must know how he got the title, to which the young lady replies that, yes, she also regrets that it turned out this way. The guy then says that the mourning has long been over, and although he inherited the title according to tradition, it should go to the son of his elder brother, and for now protecting their lands for these 3 years is his sacred duty. However, the Empress suggested that he marry one of the members of the imperial family. The main character asks if it was the Empress herself who proposed to him, to which he replies that of course he would refuse, even if the Empress herself proposed to him, because he does not want to sow discord in their lands. But he needs a reason to refuse, and he needs someone who will pretend to be his wife for these 3 years. The main character is then a little surprised, and says that this is why he proposed to marry her. The man replies that frankly he chose her, because she arouses the least suspicion, so he advises her to think things through. The young lady, meanwhile, thinks that her heart is about to fall apart. It would burst, and she thought she could bear it all. Well, deep down, she probably still had some hope. Meanwhile, the brunette insists that if she agrees, then he'll pay off all her debts and add as much as she wants. The main character is surprised by this, and the Count claims that he will help her educate her brother and sister and later arrange for them to live in a proper place. After which, the man asks if that's why she works there day and night. He also insists that he won't interfere in her life, and that they will pretend to be a happy married couple. In return, he will provide her with everything, and the girl will become the capital's leading fashionista. Miel understands that she doesn't need any wealth and won't take a penny from the Arctices. However, no matter how hard she tries, she's unlikely to be able to get her brother and sister back on their feet. A short time later, the young lady returns home, after which he looks at the sky with a little surprise, and with shaking hands thinks that everything is fine. After all, she did everything right. A little while ago, the Count claimed he needed to make sure of something and asked if she had any feelings for him. After all, if she likes him even a little, then let her consider his proposal invalid, and then he will no longer approach her with personal questions. Now, the young lady remembers how she said that, of course not, and she was absolutely indifferent to him. The girl understands that her grandmother always told her not to forget that they are from the Quarto family. Although her grandmother taught her to write and count, they lived like everyone else, and their affairs were getting worse. The debts grew bigger every day, but she only wanted one thing, and that was to live like all normal people. Well, when the lady was 17, someone said that a war had started, and that Dagon's troops were heading towards them, after which someone asked if they were going to run away. Well, when the children came home, their father insisted that they would stay there because he would not leave Kanhim. The war would end soon, so there was no need to panic, and he was confident the emperor would take action. He had initially decided to stay in Kanhim, but he had been mistaken. One day, the knights claimed that the enemy was breaking through the defense, and the city would soon fall, after which they told the captain that they were waiting for orders. But the man only insisted they were leaving the city. The commanding officers began taking bribes because there had been no wars for a long time. One of the knights then asked how this was possible, but the man replied that in order to reach the capital, they needed to cross the mountains, and to do this they needed to take Kanhim. While the Dagons are in Kanhim, they have time to prepare, so the emperor left their garden. The young lady realizes they have lost their parents, and the younger sister has stopped speaking. All the papers proving their noble origins have been burned, and they have become war refugees. A little while later, the girl begged someone to give her a job, but the man replied that he had no job for her. So if she keeps coming, he'll have problems too. The young lady says her brother and sister haven't eaten anything for several days. But the man replied that no one there had anything to eat, and that those who came to him were in an even worse situation. Damn this war, it's over. But people still fall into eternal sleep like flies. But the young lady says that if she doesn't work, her brother and sister may fall into eternal sleep. After which the man replied that since she couldn't find a job, she should go beg, and let the girl go to Bart because he usually has a lot of signs, and maybe there is something to be gained. The young lady then asked if he was talking about begging, but at that moment, someone puts down an apple, and the man screams, "What the hell he's doing?" Then she runs after the guy and yells at him to stop. Meanwhile, the main character is left alone near the counter, after which she looks at the apple, which she can now easily steal. But then the girl shakes her head and realizes that she can't do this. Well, she still needs to figure out a way to get at least some food. A little while later, she's already heading to Bart's. She still can't believe that there is such a place in Kanhim, because there were no refugees there. Officers arrived in the city and were tasked with rebuilding the system, and during the war, the rich managed to preserve their fortunes. Of Arctis, under the command of Bernard, were also stationed in the city. Having achieved a brilliant victory in the war, they never returned to the capital as the knights settled in Kanhim and helped rebuild the city. They understood perfectly well that their military glory would quickly be forgotten. However, for their city, they will forever remain the saviors of all of Kashim, but they are all human. A little while later, the girl comes up and someone screams, "Is this all?" and asks if they know how many mouths there are in his family. The knights began to tire of this burden. Now the man cries out that they definitely have more, and he asks how they don't see that people there are plunging into eternal sleep from hunger. Else approaches the knight and says how tall he is, after which he offers to show him his daughter, but he only replies that he is not allowed to. At this time, the main character looks around, and one of the knights asks if she came for rations. The girl replies that yes, after which they hand her the bread and tell her to take some, as there really is only a little bit of it. Well, that's all there is after which the main character thanks him, after which the knight turns around. The young lady thinks that she is a good girl and has done everything right, and also that her brother and sister will have food today, so everything is fine. The girl understands that perhaps tomorrow she will be able to get something else, but now she needs to find a job. Then the main character notices someone screaming and then saying that if they want to eat, then let them work. And do they really think the knights don't notice? This man is begging the man for mercy, but he only claims that every morning one has to drive out parasites like them, after which he turns to the young lady and asks what she is doing there and whether she has come to beg too. He asks if she's not Maya, and then orders her to answer because he's the boss there. Miel insists she needs a job, after which the man says that she is also a good girl, that she is looking for something, and that she has a pretty face, after which he asks if the girl will help him while away the night. He asks if he needs food money and clothes, but if she spends one night with him, it will only last for a couple of days, after which the man asks what she will say, and whether this is not a good offer. Well, after that, the girl only says that he is a liar and a man who beats her, and also wonders why she is showing off. And does she really think that just because she asked for a job, that makes her different from the rest of the rabble? But she remains a pathetic rabble. The young lady wonders why this happened to her, and they say that the capital is awash in luxury after the victory. So why is Canheim mired in poverty? At this time, the man grabs her by the hair and says that maybe the girl has the right to choose, but she has no right to refuse. Miel realizes that she only wanted some bread to feed the younger ones. But at that very moment, someone says that this is enough, after which he asks if this is really His Excellency. But the man says that, judging by his clothes, he serves there, after which he asks if he has any problems. The young lady then realizes that it's Bernard Arctus. The brunette then explains that his job is to distribute food to the residents, in case he didn't know. So let him quickly go and get to work. The man then runs and cries out that he'll do it this very minute, after which the knight turns to his lordship and invites him to go since they have a lot to do today. The higher-ups won't be pleased if we don't provide a report on the post-war state of Canheim on time, and there is nowhere to put it off any longer, after which the man turns around and says that yes, they should go. The main character then screams for His Excellency to wait and grabs him by a piece of his pants, after which he asks for help. At this point, the target only turns to the master once more and says that they should leave. After all, even if he helps now, they will clearly not thank him, but will only start asking for more. The young lady claims that she is not begging for alms, and then asks for a job. The girl says she'll work and won't ask for government pay. Miel realizes this is her chance, after which she claims that she was lucky to survive the war, but the man tells her to leave. After all, there are many like her, after which the young lady understands that she is lucky to survive, but tomorrow no one will help her. And the girl clenches her fists and also claims that she can count and knows that they need people. Many people are needed to rebuild the city after the war, and they also need those who will count the losses. The girl understands that she must survive for the sake of her brother and sister, after which she tells His Excellency he has nobles who know how to count, so he'll definitely find loyal craftsmen. The girl understands that she knows her worth, but then she says they won't find anyone else who'll agree to work for peanuts. And she agrees to work for a loaf of bread a day and agrees to anything just to avoid starvation. The knight then asks if she's talking about a loaf of bread and if she's truly in despair. After this, the young lady only begs to be hired. The girl recalls how her grandmother told her to remember that even if difficult times come, they will end someday, no matter what happens. Let her continue to study. After all, if she tries hard one day, fate will smile upon her. The young lady looks resolutely at the count. The knight then turns to the master and says that he is already helping there and is not returning to the capital, so he doesn't have to worry about the population anymore, and he suggests going. But the man is only interested in whether the girl will take on any job that is given to her. The young lady then resolutely replies that yes, she will take on any job, after which the count turns around and tells the knight that he is going to the meeting and let him take her to the barracks, and he'll prepare an employment contract. A little while later, the knight asked the captain if he was sure he should take the girl. Well, his master asks if he hasn't made himself clear. Allison replies that he has no right to disobey his master's orders. Well, if it turns out he personally took the refugee, then there will be talk. For the Canheim elite, this could become a pretext. The brunette replies that he understands everything, but asks what to do about the shortage of hands. After all, no one from the capital wants to come to Canheim, and those who do come are pursuing their own goals. But this lady didn't need anything. She was completely desperate to find a job. So how could he pass someone like her by? The knight insists the master is right, but still. Then the brunette interrupts him and tells him not to worry, as he warned her of the consequences. A little while later, someone asks the young lady if her name is Miel and how she ended up there. The girl replies that it just happened that way, and also remembers how the Count told her not to say a word about the fact that it was he who got her there. After which, the young lady claims that she saw an advert saying, "Hey man," she wonders where it came from. After which, the young lady says that someone hung it up, and how else could she have gotten a job there? The worker then realizes that it's unclear who this girl is, or how she got there. She seems nice, but there's still something fishy about her. After which, the man says he understands and invites her in. He also claims he's in charge of the knight's warehouse, and her job is to keep track of everything stored there. Let her check that everything is there and report anything immediately. The young lady then looks at everything that's there, and she turns to Mr. Sheen, asking if she really needs to check all of this, to which he replies that yes. And she asks what the difficulty is, because she will be checking the contents of the entire warehouse every day. The main character looks at all this in shock, after which the man tells her not to be afraid because he will help, but she should just be more careful, to which the young lady agrees and asserts that she will do everything in the best possible way. A little while later, the girl is carrying heavy boxes, after which Sean notices this, and he tells Miel to leave the heavy loads with him, to which the girl agrees, after which she continues to write something down. A little while later, when the man enters the warehouse in the middle of the night, he sees her young lady still working, and a little while later, the girl takes food to her brother and sister. Well, when she wipes her sister's mouth, her stomach starts to rumble. The kids immediately hand their bread to their sister, but she replies that everything is fine. The next day, Sean hands Miel a basket of bread and tells her to take it when she leaves. The young lady asks if she can, and Sean claims that she never finishes her food because she gives it to the younger children. And this is yesterday's bread from the restaurant, after which the main character thanks him, and the man claims that he too heard that there is a real shortage of workers right now. He also has news for Yulia, and after a while, he asks what it is. The man replies, "Starting tomorrow, she will work in the administration," after which the main character is surprised. And then she thanks him completely. A little time passed, and the girl had already settled into the administration. Now someone turns to Miel and says that she works so hard and has already done everything. She probably has so much work that she doesn't have time to have a bite to eat with him. To which the girl replies that she doesn't even know. And the guy asks if it's hard for her to work with men, and if she has problems, then the girl should speak up because he won't leave her in trouble. The young lady then says that everything is fine, but then only tells Miel not to be shy and to tell everything, but at the same moment, someone comes up to the guy from behind and says that he thinks the girl has expressed herself clearly, after which he also asks how many times he told her not to pester Miel. After this, the guy apologizes to Miel and says that no matter how much you warn him, this guy is at it again. But then he also says that the girl is also good, because he told her to run to him if this happens. But she remains silent, and you can't talk to people like this guy at all. After which the young lady says that everything is fine, and he also thinks that she won't bother them. The knight then asserts that what he's about to say is very important, and soon they will leave Kanhim. The main character asks if this is really true. The knight replies that they are returning to the capital. Within a year, things in Kanhim had improved. Most of the agricultural land has been restored, so hunger is no longer a problem, and the city streets have become much safer. The knight then says that it turns out their work there is almost finished, and the young lady replies that it is clear, after which Allison is about to say something else, but the young lady interrupts him, and he thanks them for everything, after which the guy is a little surprised about the young lady, who claims that thanks to them, she was able to survive a difficult time, and she'll be grateful to her brother and sister for helping them. So the knight tells her to wait. And there he tried to say that he had a proposal for her, which surprised the young lady. After which the knight claims that Sean praised the young lady so much, and how his tongue never got tired. It's hard to find a man as loyal as Miele, and such talents have a place in the capital, which is why the young lady is a little surprised. And Allison says that if she agrees, she'll work in the 3rd Administrative Department. The captain has given the go-ahead, so it's up to her. After which, the knight asks what Miel will say. The young lady then wonders if she can really go to the capital. That same evening, the girl covers her sister and then looks at the contract. She thinks that she will remain with the knights, and there will be no problems with money, and she will also arrange for the younger ones to study in the capital. She will also be able to be close to the count, but then the girl looks at her brother and sister and thinks if they will like it. From Canheim to the capital, and it's fine for her alone. But will the children be able to withstand such a difficult journey? Even if they get there safely, will the children be able to adjust to their new surroundings, especially since Selina has only just started talking again? The young lady's sister then gets out of bed and asks if Miel is still awake, after which the main character asks if the girl was awakened by the light, and she apologizes and says that she will turn it off now. Selina wonders if something has happened to her sister, and the main character then turns to her and also asks if she wants to move to a place where there is food schools and no war, to a better place. But this place is far from there, and you will need to get used to it. Well, if she doesn't want to, then they won't go anywhere. The little girl is surprised after this and says that if her sister is nearby, she'll go anywhere. The main character's brother also says that it doesn't matter to him where they live as long as they are together. The main character replies that she feels the same way, and a little while later, they find themselves in the capital. Selina tells her little sister that everything there is so luxurious, after which she asks her brother what it is, but he asks how he should know. Is a completely different world there compared to Canheim. At this moment, someone else addresses the young lady and greets her. It turns out to be Mr. Sean. He thanks Miel for agreeing to go all this way, to which the girl replies that it's nothing, and thanks him for recommending her. Sean replies that he wouldn't be able to work without her, after which he also pats her brother and sister on the head and also says how cute they are. The man also says that Miel will succeed in the capital, which surprises the girl. And Sean replies that he has never seen anyone loyal to her in his life, and that everything will be fine with her. So Miel shouldn't worry. She knows she'll try her best and is confident everything will work out for them. After which she agrees and understands that when it comes to work, she has no equal. A short time later, the lady was already working on paperwork for another night. One of the workers then asked if she was staying late again and inquired about her health. Miel replies that everything is fine, and the guy tells her not to be late tomorrow. She'll also get extra pay for overtime, and she's a good girl for working so hard. Miel understands that there are some things that hard work alone can't solve. A little while later, the girl finds herself at the market and realizes that 4 apples cost 10 silver coins there. But in her city, all this would cost 3, after which the girl thinks, what kind of prices are these? Because there they are almost 3 times higher. And that's the cost of living. Much later, the girl is already cooking and bringing food to the boys. They are delighted and ask what they have today. The girl replies that it's chicken soup. The boys are already thinking about a good soup, and Selina says that her sister's soup is the most delicious. Well then, the girl poured this soup into a bowl, and her brother and sister were a little surprised at first. But then they say it's the most delicious soup, and the main character silently thanks them. The girl realizes that prices in the capital are sky high and can't even compare to Canheim. It's good that the knights provided her with housing, so that's one less problem. Well, she can't live on their salary alone, so the young lady wonders if they will have enough money. She came to the capital because she thought life would be easier there, but she can't believe that now, every day she only thinks about how to make ends meet. Miel also thinks about Denise is almost 14, and he needs to do something, otherwise he will go looking for a job instead of going to school. But the girl thinks that this will not happen. She also recalls telling the Count that no one but her would agree to work for peanuts. And now she understands that after this, she can't ask for a raise, so she just needs to work more, because if she works, there will be money. Life went on as usual. In the morning, the young lady checked the weather outside. After which I prepared breakfast and dinner at the same time, and then ran to work and worked there. She worked during lunch, and after work hours ended, she stayed and worked some more. When work was over, the girl would run out for groceries, and at least once a week she had to leave early to study with Dennis and Selina. If work came up on the weekend, it was just like that. And so the days, weeks, and months passed. And then sometime later, the anniversary of the victory celebration arrived. The man asks for everyone's attention, then declares that they're leaving early today. They are responsible for cleaning the city after the celebrations, but that is their headache tomorrow, and today they are having fun. And even if they stay working today, there will be no such bonuses. So let them all go home, after which the workers will rejoice. And they're heading somewhere. The main character is silent and lost in thought. After which, the man also comes up to her from behind and asks if I understand that she should be home in the evening. The girl then apologizes, and he asks if she really wants to stay today. He also tells Meal to understand. After all, does she even know what she wants? How many times has he been asked why she stays late every day? And she's certainly a good person, and she does other people's work, but still. Meanwhile, one of the workers leaving says that His Excellency defeated the Degons. His companion says that's awesome, and he'd like to see it. Then another guy asks if he really wants that, since he doesn't even want to think about such horrors. He also suggests talking about the war, because on days like these, one should only talk about good things. At this time, someone turns to Meal again and asks if she is listening at all, after which the girl apologizes, but her interlocutor says that it's okay, and she can stay, but not for long, and then let him close everything there. But let him not overdo it. The girl agrees in response. She understands that, on Victory Day, the entire country remembers the brilliant victory over Dagon in a long and grueling war. On this day, people remember how the news of victory echoed throughout the empire. In memory of this, they celebrate all night. However, not for everyone. It is a joyful day. Some barely survived the war or lost loved ones, and the young lady remembers the war differently from the others. The morning after the decisive battle, she looked out of the window and caught her breath. The banner of the Knights of Arctus shone brighter than the sun, and he stood at the head of the procession. When the girl first saw the Count, she felt both relief and fear at the same time. Something unknown mixed with her feelings and pierced her very heart. Now the young lady is curious about what Dennis and Selena are up to, and then she decides that's enough for today, and it's time to go home. After all, on such a day, she should be with them. But at that very moment, fireworks start going off in the street. The main character here already remembers military shots and bends over, covering her ears and screaming, after which she trembles and realizes that she knows it is not a cannon salvo, but still cannot move. Well, the girl also understands that she has to and needs to go home. At that very moment, someone approaches the young lady and asks if everything is okay. It turns out to be the Count, and he's wondering why she hasn't left yet. The main character then asks if it really is His Excellency. She screams that it's because of the holiday, and the man claims that he has to go because he had to come back for a short while. The main character looks at the Count's hands and wonders if his epaulette has come off, and he has returned to change. The brunette claims that today he allowed everyone to leave early, but she still stayed to work on a holiday, and replies that yes. The guy also says he heard she was always the last one to leave work in Canheim. The young lady then wonders if he's really going to scold her now, and if he really thinks she's incapable of finishing her work on time. The young lady then says that yes, that's true, but she stayed for the pay raise. The man then asks if she really needed the extra pay, after which he tells the girl to wait, and he wonders if she's still getting her old salary. Miel realizes she's finished. At this time, the Count asks why she didn't ask her boss for a raise, but the girl replies that she agreed to work for a pittance and was afraid that she would be fired if she asked for a raise. The Count then looks at the young lady and wonders if she really thinks that he is a monster. Well, if that's the case, then he says that the girl should come to the main building tomorrow. The young lady then asks him what he is talking about, but he only wonders if she didn't hear. After all, he says that tomorrow she'll be working in the first administrative department. The young lady is then shocked. She understands that if the third administrative department dealt with complaints from citizens and organized events, the first administrative department played a much more important role distributing funds and manpower. Therefore, if she worked there, she would be closer to the top. That is, she will work side by side with His Excellency, after which the brunette claims that he will personally check that she has a good salary, and probably she has suffered a lot lately. So the young lady tells his lordship she doesn't think she's fit for this. The man replies that he thought Allison was keeping an eye on her and that she hadn't had any questions before, so he didn't pay any attention. Well, in fact, one of the workers saw what the young lady's salary was, and then in shock asked if she really received so little. The guy understood that he had to contact the commander, after which he said that he needed him to check something. Well, seeing the gentleman's face, I realized that he seemed to be in a bad mood right now, and decided to come by later. Now the Count asks the young lady for forgiveness, and she wonders if His Excellency has personally apologized to her. After this, the brunette tells her not to stay out late, because the security there is better than in Canheim, but it is still dangerous on the streets late at night. He sends one of the knights with her to escort her home, and the girl realizes that she didn't think the count remembered her at all. A short time later, the knight apologizes to Miel and says that he should have paid attention to it, and now he's ashamed to look her in the eye. The young lady then says he's not to blame because she didn't say anything, and she couldn't even imagine that they would raise her salary, and even so much so, she thanks them. The knight claims that she worked very hard, so he thought that simply issuing a standard appeal was not enough. So as an apology, he raised it further. He also takes the girl to the office of the first department and assures her that starting today, she will be working there. Lunch is covered by the office, and if she stays late, dinner is also covered, so she doesn't have to worry about food. And he has to say something else, after which the young lady asks what it is. At the same moment, she exchanges glances with one of the workers and then greets him, but he just passes by. The knight then claims that the problem is that rumors seem to have already reached the staff, and they say the commander personally promoted her. The main character then screams, asking what he's talking about the guy. Of course, everyone got it all wrong, since she was transferred so quickly in just one day. So he warns that colleagues will treat her with caution for now, and he apologizes for how things turned out. The young lady replies that it's nothing to worry about, after which she cries out that she will do everything to ensure that the gossip is quickly forgotten. Well, a little while later, the girl comes to her desk and realizes that it's easy to say. At this point, someone approaches the young lady and asks if her name is Miel. The girl replies, yes, and says she's pleased to meet you. She'd also be happy to work with you. Her interlocutor says that yes, he also has urgent business, so let her sort it out as soon as possible. The girl replies that of course, and he can trust her with anything. When she picks up the papers, she thinks there are quite a lot of them, after which she asks when she will do it, and the brunette asks if she will finish before the evening. The young lady replies that of course, and understands that what else did she expect, since it is unclear how she got there, and they are not at all happy to see her there. After which the young lady thinks that it's okay, because she will do everything that is required of her, and he'll keep working hard. A little while later, the girl hands over the papers and says they're ready, so she asks him to check them. The man asks if she has finished yet, and there were quite a lot of them there, and answers that she has, and asks if there will be any more assignments. The brunette says that this is all and she can go. But when the young lady collects her things, she thinks whether she did a good job and whether there was a mistake or she missed something. The brunette says that this needs to be handed in as soon as possible, after which the young lady bids him farewell, and he bids her farewell in return. A little while later, the girl is already heading home smiling. Then someone turns to her and tells her she's leaving on time today. The young lady understands that it is his lordship, after which the brunette asks, does she like working in the first department? Miel replies that she would, and thanks him. The count replies that he's glad, and the young lady says that everything is fine, because her salary has been raised nicely, and he needn't worry about her anymore. Then she suddenly realizes she's discussing salary with her boss again. At this time, the man only says that he understands, and then wishes her a safe journey home. The girl thanks him, but is embarrassed, and thinks what is happening to her. Her heart is about to jump out of her chest, and the young lady does not understand why it beats so strongly when she sees the count. And she also thinks what is wrong with her, because I also felt a rush of heat. At this time, the red-haired ones are on the training ground. When everyone leaves, she still swings at the training dummy and takes its head off. One of the guys then says that Miss Catherine is amazing, and asks if she wants to continue training, but she gives her all to her work, after which the guy says that he can stay with her because he also wanted to continue. But at that very moment, he gets hit on the forehead, after which the red-haired lady apologizes, but says that she has to go. And even if he was telling the truth, she doesn't think she's worth emulating. There's a training session at the first administrative department soon. The young lady realizes that 1.5 years has already passed since she arrived in the first department, and every day she stays late. Then, a red liquid starts coming out of the young lady's nose, and the guard screams, "Whatever you say, she's dirtying the papers." The girls still need money to buy a change of uniform. Her job isn't difficult, so she finishes everything on time, but she just wants to be noticed. One summer day, 6 months ago, someone approached Miel and asked if she was currently heading to the Knights. The girl replied that yes, after which the guy asked if she would take these documents to something. She replied that it was fine, and asked if these were mercenary contracts that were subject to termination. And it seems His Majesty has something big planned, but the war ended a long time ago, so he asks why they are only now reducing the army. Someone else says that it is clear that he needs to control their commander, and they're just the unfortunate victims of these political games. The guy also says he still has a lot of work to do, so he apologizes to Miel. But she replies that it's nothing, and that he shouldn't worry because she'll do everything, after which the girl leaves. And the brunette says how lucky they are to have her. Another guy says that next time, yes, he'll treat her to lunch. The dark-haired guy then says that he is now ashamed of himself for being too strict with her in the beginning. The young lady at this time realizes that she has submitted the documents and then collected the materials that she was asked for. At this time, someone says that the gentleman has already done too much, after which the girl thinks that this voice seems familiar to her, and he wonders if this could be Lord Allison. The guy says that the gentleman is taking on too much, and that you can't please everyone, but the man responds to him to stop, and one more word after which he will consider this as insubordination, after which the guy also looks to the side and asks who is there. The young lady immediately hides behind a pole, after which she looks out and looks at them with fear. The knight then shocked asks if it really was Miel. The girl apologizes, claiming she was on her way to the knight's corps and didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the boy replies that it looked quite the opposite. The count then says that, hey, the girl is from Canheim, to which she replies that yes, after which the man claims that this is excellent, and the young lady asks what he means, after which the brunette asks if she'll help him. A short time later, the young lady finds herself in a jewelry store. The man asks if she'll pick out the most beautiful piece of jewelry. Miel shocked wonders why he brought her there, after which she also thinks about how to choose, and he clearly wants to give the girl a gift. After which the man claims that he wants to give a gift to someone, and she likes stones mined in the south, and she is from Canheim. He doesn't understand anything about jewelry, and she's a woman, so she should understand it, and the count asks if she can advise anything, after which the main character replies that, of course, and then looks at the jewelry. Well, she understands that for her they are all the same, after which the lady points to one of them and asks what about it. Then the man approaches the cash register, and the employees ask if he's taking it as a gift, and whether to wrap it in a special way, but he answers that the main thing is that it looks beautiful. At this point, the worker asks if the count is giving this to his mother, since young girls don't usually wear things like this, but it looks elegant and tasteful, after which he thanks the count and tells him to come again. The young lady, meanwhile, is thinking that even a member of high society would never set his sights on an aunt like her. And if he does, she will mistakenly think that he likes her, but in fact he hardly remembers her name. Therefore, he only needs her to carry out orders, and the girl knows the morals of the world very well, so everything is not as she understood. And she has never seen jewelry in her life, after which the young lady thinks how she looks. And why is she crying? A little while later, the girl receives a necklace from the count, but then she suddenly wakes up and wonders what it was, and also what she just dreamed. The young lady jumps out of bed and realizes that she was, of course, very upset then, but she had to dream about it, and it could drive her crazy. At this time, someone enters the young lady's room, and the main character asks if it is Selena. The girl then runs up to her sister and says that she is scared alone, after which the girl tells her to come to her. He also suggests sleeping together tonight. She also realizes she needs to think more about the little ones, so she's back at work. And she even began to carry out assignments for her colleagues, although their affairs did not concern her at all for the sake of having everything for the children. And yet the girl understands that she is overexerting herself at work. She wants to repay His Excellency for his kindness, and maybe he will pay attention to her when she achieves something, after which the lady falls asleep. Meanwhile, the count heads toward the first building. But then he sees a light in the window and asks if there's anyone else there. The knight replies that it's probably Miel again. After all, lately she often sits late, after which the man remains silent. A little while later, the main character opens her eyes and wonders if she really passed out right at the table. The girl also hopes that no one will see this, but then she's shocked and wonders who's sitting next to her. The man then asks if she's awake. The main character immediately jumps up and screams, "Are they really going to fire her?" But then she sees it's the count, and in shock, she realizes that the commander has dropped in. The brunette asks what she's doing there, since it's chilly in the offices at night. After which the young lady thinks that this cannot be, and that she is definitely sleeping, and also that he did not come because he is worried. At this time, the man claims that he is probably not a very good boss, which surprises the young lady. But the Count claims that he only dropped in to ask not to linger any longer, since these matters are not urgent. Her salary should be enough to live in the capital, after which the young lady wonders if he is really reprimanding her now. Well, what else did she expect? Of course it's true. Miel replies that she's staying on because of her debts. The man asks if this is really the case, after which the young lady replies that yes, her family has a lot of debt, and she needs to pay them, so she doesn't complain under any circumstances. Her entire salary is quite sufficient. The girl understands that the family really did have a lot of debt, but during the war, all the archives burned down, so now she is brazenly lying. She lies but understands that she can't tell him the truth about how she's going out of her way, just so that he'll come in and look at her. The Count then says that that's it, and that it's probably hard for her, but the girl replies that it's not at all, because of which she wonders if he really believed her. She also hands the Count his cloak and thanks him for covering her, but he replies that it is nothing, after which he asks if the girl remembers that they chose a gift and claims that his brother's wife really liked it. So he thanks the young lady, and she shocked asks if it was really her brother's wife, to which the man replies that yes, and soon she should give birth to an heir, so a gift was needed, and he thought that the administrative department was aware of it. The young lady then says that it is understandable, but remembers how she looked through the list of gifts for the Count, and wondered why there were so many, after which she understands that the decoration was for her brother's wife, and not for the bride. At this time, the man claims that it is already late, so let her go home, to which the young lady agrees. And she also thanks him. Miel understands that she listened to him, and he scolded her, and besides, she also lied. This makes her feel uneasy, but the young lady still thinks with a smile that it's okay. But today, she's happier than ever. A month later, someone pins the young lady against the wall, and she asks if she is Miel from the first administrative department. The girl replies yes, and asks, what about her interlocutors? But she says that they have something to talk about, and he asks if she's okay with it. A little while ago, the girl asked if she was really accompanying the commander. Her colleague asked who else. Rumors had it that the commander had hired her as an assistant, and the girl asked what kind of nonsense that was. Another of them insisted he'd known such talent wouldn't go to waste. He even started to worry because they say the new girl works day and night, and even though at her age, girls only think about dates. Then another one of them says that the lady with the red hair is a good girl because the commander noticed her, and now the other men definitely don't stand a chance. So one of them tells her not to forget about them, because who else would they have lunch with? The young lady then screams out what they are even talking about and asks if he has ever seen her outside the building. And she only runs back and forth from the site to the office, so when is she supposed to accompany the commander? The guy then says that's what he heard and wonders where the rumors started. But then someone else asks if it's possible they just have the same name, after which the guy asks if it's all a lie. And after all, they say the new girl works in the administrative department. More. They call her a shadow employee, and the lady with red hair says that for sure, and she thinks she knows who it is. After that, someone asked who this lady was and what she was doing next to the commander, because she doesn't look like a knight, so she probably works for Allison. The main character thought that from that conversation of theirs, events began to take a turn for the worse, and His Excellency began to accompany her everywhere, even at an audience at the Imperial Palace, and during the training of knightly squads. Also turned to Miel and said that when they returned, she had an urgent task. Let her answer all the letters that were delivered and tell the young lady that it is good, because she will take care of it right away. The girl also understands that His Excellency has even begun to entrust her with personal affairs, and her colleagues do not like this at all. After all, they complain that they only get strange assignments, and it seems that he treats her in a special way. Therefore, she doesn't need more, and the girl thinks that she has no idea why he drags her around with him everywhere. After which the lady crashes into a pole. The brunette tells her to be more careful, then agrees and apologizes. Meanwhile, another man watches them and wonders if this Catherine is with the Count again. The Marquis's servant then turns to him and says he doesn't think it's her. The man then asks who it is and if so. Besides Catherine, there are other women among the Knights of Arctus. The man replies that the girl works in the administration and is not a knight. He's told the gentleman this many times before. The Marquise replies that it is clear, and this is the new girl who is called a shadow employee. But if you think about it, then Catherine is much simpler. Hey, does the Count really like women like that? At this time, a lady with red hair approaches the main character and asks if she is Lady Catherine. The woman then asks if this means that the girl has heard about her, and she screams that if she has already decided to call herself by her name, then she should do it wisely, after which the main character screams out what this means. And she also says that she doesn't understand anything at all, but the woman suggests that she stop spreading it, because the rumors have already reached her, so how can she not react? At this time, the main character looks at her with puppy eyes, after which the woman is surprised, and he asks if she really didn't hear. Everyone says the commander assigned Catherine to escort him, and she wonders if it was her doing. Gleb, the main character, replies that it's all a lie, after which the red-haired lady says they must have gotten confused, and the main character is surprised. The knight replies that most of the commander's entourage are men, and since she's the only female knight there, she's the only one. The young lady then continues that since the commander is accompanied by a woman, everyone thought it was Lady Catherine, after which they both fall silent, and the main character immediately bows and apologizes sincerely if she was offended. The woman then cries out that she was not. She also says that she thought that the girl knew about all this gossip and was deliberately not saying anything in order to use her name. Miel then replies that she would never do such a thing. Catherine replies that she too misunderstood, and now she knows why everyone is so interested in her. The main character asks what she's talking about, after which the lady with red hair replies that it's one thing when a commander appoints someone from the administration as his assistant. Well, this is his first time being accompanied by a woman, and that's why it's so interesting about spanking. Miel is only embarrassed by this, after which Catherine thinks that the girl is running away from everyone like a hare. She also turns to Miel and says that if anyone else mentions this, then she should boldly come to her. You are a Night Corps. After all, she is alive. She will put this bastard's brains back in place. After which she also suggests having lunch together, sometime since she finally has a friend. The woman then asks if they have agreed, and the main character with a smile on her face replies that of course. Allison watches all this from the window and only smiles. At this point, the Count turns to him and says he'll be going, after which he asks if the knight can sort out the remaining papers, to which he replies, of course. He also takes one of the papers and says that this is Miel's handwriting, after which he asks if he can ask the commander about something. The man asks what exactly, after which the knight claims that recently the commander began to entrust Miel with his personal affairs. But doesn't he have other reasons for this? The Count replies that now he needs someone who can be quiet. The guy then asks what he means by quiet. The Count replies, someone who doesn't care what others say and who does his job without asking questions. And given what is happening in the county, now public unrest has not yet subsided, and they still want to see him as Count. Although Caius is doing an excellent job of fulfilling his duties. Even during his family life, the Count tried to be only a shadow of the family, and all this for the sake of that. So that power would go to his brother, and he didn't need these honors, so he would never become a Count. And he needs someone who knows their job and won't break at the right moment. He needs someone who knows their place. Allison is surprised by this, and the Count only tells him to sort out the remaining papers, after which he says that it will be done. Well, the man tells him to be more careful. Time flew by in the capital, and almost 2 years had already passed. And in the 5th year of her stay, there Catherine arrives at the young lady's house. The main character asks what happened, after which the woman cheats on him for showing up so late, but claims that they have an urgent meeting. After all, Count Caius Arctus fell into eternal sleep. Meanwhile, the brunette arrived at the scene, and his brother's wife screams out what he should do now, after which the brunette asks what happened. Well, the woman screams that it was all his fault if Caius hadn't sat on that damned horse that he gave him. The guy then asks if she's talking about Caius. A little while later, the main character realizes she's finally almost finished. There was so much work these days, but at least today, she thought about leaving early. At this point, Allison approaches the young lady. The guy asks if she's really going home, after which she says that she worked late again, and that she should have finished earlier and apologized. But something delayed her. The guy then tells her not to apologize because he should be the one apologizing to her. He also claims that the funeral coincided with the celebration of Victory Day and the administration had a hard time. After which, the young lady says that it's not the first time, so she's used to it, but the Count's nights are probably very busy. A month ago, Count Caius Arctus tragically fell into eternal sleep after falling from his horse. Everyone, especially the Knights of Arctus, were deeply shocked by this unexpected news. At one point, they had to prepare for the swearing in of the new Count and the Victory Day celebrations, and only after long days filled with activities did they manage to put their grief behind them. Well, His Excellency, Bernard, seemed very downcast when the young lady brought him the report. The man simply told the girl to leave it on the table. The young lady did so, and then offered to help clear the table. The Count said that if she wanted, she could do it. Miel understands that His Excellency's entire life was spent under the care of her late Count Caius. It is no exaggeration to say that Bernard dedicated his entire life to helping his brother rule these lands. But now he has lost his brother and the meaning of life. The knight then tells the young lady that she is worrying too much because his lordship is already lighter. Today, he went to the annual banquet at the Imperial Palace. The young lady then asks why the knight is there, to which he replies that he still has business to attend to and will now deliver the documents to the commander in his office, and then head to the palace. The main character then offers her help and says that she will bring it, and he should hurry to his lordship, to which the knight agrees, and thanks her, because she will help him very much. The young lady then leaves with the documents, and the knight remembers how his master said that he needed someone who could be quiet, and someone who knows their place. The young lady then wonders if something similar could happen to her brother or sister. After all, she would never have been able to bear this grief, but one cannot grieve forever, because she will die in tears and continue to live on. Although he will know in advance that things will definitely not be like before, now he needs support. Therefore, the main character thinks about how to help him, and then goes into the office. But he sees his lordship there. The young lady is surprised and says that the gentleman frightened her. She also apologizes and claims that she thought no one would be there, but the man asks what she is doing there so late. The girl replies that she came to bring some papers, after which Bruno dissuades her from leaving them on the table and agrees to something, after which she looks at the table and realizes that the Count cleaned the table, although she could have done it. Miel also says that she thought he had gone to the imperial banquet, to which he replies that he was there, and also heard all sorts of nonsense. So he decided to leave early. The young lady then says, "Oh, that's how it is." Then he wonders if he's feeling any better, and turns to His Excellency. She also claims that she wanted to tell him earlier, but it completely slipped her mind, after which the girl apologizes for the fact that he had to clean up the mess she made there. Bernard just says that it must have been hard for him. And Ellison, the young lady at this time, thinks that she was worried, because she saw how hard it was for him. After which he says, "What if he does that? Then she'll go." The girl realizes that she wants to be strong for his lordship's sake, but no matter what she does, she'll still remain his subordinate, and they'll never be equals. There, no actions and no words will help, because she continues to try and then tell herself that she does not give up. And this will be enough for her even if she remains invisible to His Excellency forever. And even if he never reciprocates her feelings, what she has now is enough for her. But 6 months later, the Count proposed marriage to her. He later said he was glad she had accepted, and he knows that he is asking too much, but he is counting on her very much, after which the young lady agrees. And he says he can rely on her, but the man then tells her not to think. He just told her about his plan for no particular reason, because he wants her to know what will happen next. The young lady then asks what this means, and the man rises from his seat and states that he has decided to announce to everyone that he is a complete fool. He proposed to her because he had lost his head in love and was now playing the role of a fool in love. The young lady at this time thinks whether he is talking about them as lovers, and probably the lovers are cuties in a draw with each other. They hold hands and kiss on the cheek. The girl wonders what she should do because it's just a fantasy, and she already feels like a criminal. And she thinks how she cannot imagine this, but somehow it is difficult to imagine the gentle Count. At this time, He also addresses the young lady, and the girl realizes it's Catherine. Looking at her red hair, she asks why she's sitting there all alone. And also, is something really bothering her? And have the knights been pestering her again? The young lady then rises from her seat and says, "If only." And she is getting married to Count Bernard Arctus, who is her boss, because yesterday he proposed to her. Well, they have a sham marriage, and His Highness needs this marriage to avoid an engagement to the princess. The lady with the red hair then says that it was Miel who got into trouble. A little while later, the main character is already sitting with bread, and her interlocutor turns to her, after which he yells at the girl and shoves food into her mouth, asking what's wrong with her, since she's not eating but sitting there silently. The main character then replies that it's nothing, after which he wishes his friend bon appetit, but the lady with red hair only takes food from her mouth and tells her to eat more. Lost weight lately? The main character just smiles after this and understands what will happen if she marries the count. It turns out that she will become a countess, and it will not be so easy to communicate, so maybe Catherine will share her thoughts with her. And she doesn't want everything to change, after which she also understands that all documents will have to be restored. And the creditors will get to them. The red-haired lady at this point offers to share her thoughts. But the main character apologizes and says she'll tell everyone everything later. A little while later, someone says everyone did a great job, and then says they'll go. One of the workers asks if Miel is staying. Hey, if so, then let her do it, to which the young lady agrees. But at that very moment, someone turns to his lordship and asks what brings him there. The protagonist realizes that he himself said he was going to see the Viscount. The man insists he's there for personal reasons so they can relax. The service providers then ask what those reasons are, to which he replies that he's come for his beloved, and everyone is shocked. The main character is also very surprised. The guys from the administrative department exclaim in shock, "Does His Excellency really have a girlfriend? And is she really from their department?" The main character is thinking at this point that, well, they're playing a prank on the lovers right now. At this time, the brunette approaches the young lady and invites her to go, after which he puts his hand on the girl's shoulder. It's as if he's showing how much he loves her, and the main character is wondering if it's really all that straightforward. At this time, the brunette says that the girl could have already told everyone, since they have been together for 3 years already. And since they're getting married soon, it's high time to tell everyone. Everyone is shocked, wondering if these two have really been dating for so long and are getting married soon. The brunette asks them to be understanding, as Miel is probably a little distracted these days, and they shouldn't offer her anything like, "Do this for me," or "Do that for me." After which the guy who wanted to offer the young lady this says fine and apologizes. At this time, the count turns to Miel and says again that they are leaving, after which he asks where her coat is. To which the young lady replies that she is not wearing it today, but the brunette says that it is chilly outside, after which he puts a coat on her and also says that they should leave because it's already so late. The main character then replies in shock that yes, and also thinks what she should do, because now she will faint right there. The man also says that the workers are great at their work and that they should be more careful on their way home. At this time, the lady with red hair asks if Miel has left yet and also offers dinner. Well then, she wonders what's wrong with their faces. One of the workers immediately yells at Catherine and asks if she knew his lordship was dating Mel. The girl then screams, "No!" and asks what he said, to which he replies that they will soon get married. At this time, the main character is walking with the count and thinks that he is too close, but just a little bit more, and he will hear how madly it beats her heart. After which the young lady turns to his lordship and asks if they can stop pretending, after which the man tells her to look there. And when the main character looks at the administration department, she sees her colleagues there who are watching them in shock, after which the man tells her to continue playing along until they reach the carriage, after which the main character agrees, but he wonders if it will really be like this every day now, and they will pretend to be lovers every day. But even though she knows it's all a lie, her heart still beats so hard, and the girl thinks that she will probably never stop dreaming and hoping, after which the young lady says goodbye to his lordship, but the man asks what she is doing. After all, he wouldn't let his beloved go home alone at such an hour. The main character, then shocked, asks him what he's talking about, and the man replies that he'll go with her. And the main character agrees, but realizes she's thinking of something else. The count then wonders if she is feeling ill, after which he tells the girl to wait. He extends his hand to her, saying that the carriage is a bit high, The protagonist extends her hand in return and thanks him. Others observing this ask whether Madame Miel is having an affair with His Excellency. But even if they met secretly, how could they hide so well? Well, what's more important is what the princess will think, and won't this worsen the relationship with the imperial family? But he thought that Miel would definitely not lose her head because of love, and it turns out that she crossed the princess's path. The lady with red hair looks out the window at this time and understands what Miel wanted to tell. At this time, one of the workers approaches her and asks what Lady Catherine thinks and whether they are doing the right thing by getting married. And it's objectively a shame that these two are completely incompatible. The red-haired lady asks what her opinion will yield. After all, it is much more important what Miel herself thinks and feels and His Excellency, after which Catherine asks if this is so. But this can be understood as them now repeating the same thing, but in front of the Count, after which the workers immediately say that of course, and Catherine suggests that they go home. At this time, the main character is riding in a carriage with His Excellency. The girl realizes that they didn't even exchange a word about how they got into the carriage. And before this, His Excellency was only pretending. But if this continues, then he will understand everything. At this point, the brunette turns to the young lady and asks if she has already told her brother and sister about the wedding. The girl replies that not yet, and the brunette replies that he hasn't told his parents yet either. But it's better not to hide anything from the family, and everyone will find out about it soon. So let her act naturally, as if everything the main character actually agrees to. But she is still interested in how her brother and sister will react when she says that she is getting married. The girl also thinks it would be great if they were happy. The brunette speaks at this point, that her brother and sister will have enough money not only for living, but also for their studies, so the girl should not worry about them, after which the main character thanks him, and she wonders if the Count really noticed that she was worried about the younger ones, after which she thanks him, but he claims that she had already thanked him. At this time, the coachman looks at the road and asks the Count if they are going to Tyna Road 46. The man replies that yes, after which the coachman says that the road is too narrow, so the carriage won't pass, and he apologizes, but says that it looks like he will have to get off there. The man then agrees and says that they will get there themselves, and the main character is surprised. And he thinks that everything is probably not as she thinks, because His Excellency would never have dragged himself there. After which, the girl apologizes, but the man asks why. She replies that she's apologizing for living in such a place. The brunette then says that maybe when they're alone, the girl doesn't notice. But since they are pretending to be lovers, then let her try not to apologize so much, because those who are especially observant will immediately suspect them. Now let her lead. The main character asks if he's talking about her, and the guy replies that he needs to sing to get to know her family. Miel then shocked asks if he's really going to see her. The girl also turns to the carriage and realizes it's already gone. After which the main character tells his lordship that they are now going up the slope, and then they still have a long way to go. And the man asks how long it takes her to get to the road, and she replies that it takes 2 hours. A little while later, the main character enters the house, and her sister immediately hugs her. But then she sees someone else and gets scared. The Count then greets Selina, but the girl is frightened by him, and Miel asks who this guy is with her. The girl then apologizes for bringing the guest in without saying anything, then claims it's her boss. At this time, someone else comes home, and the main character greets Dennis, but he asks who came to them. A little while later, the guy hits the table and screams, "What kind of nonsense is this?" She always came home at night, and they planned to follow her because she was always working. But then it suddenly turns out that she had time to run around and get married after the Donkas. The young lady then asks Dennis to be quieter and understands that they really didn't like it. The Count then says that the girl arrived late because she was with him, and there's always time for an affair at work. The guy then asks what he's talking about. The man claims that, as far as he understands, they don't want Miel to get married. But let them not worry, all after the wedding. The girl will not distance herself from them, after which the guy will not scream that he did not mean it. At this time, the main character invites Dennis to go and talk and apologizes to His Excellency, after which they depart, leaving the Count and Selina to guide them. The young lady apologizes to Dennis, and she says that she knows that this is unexpected for them, and she is also sorry that she hid this from them for so long. The guy then tells his sister that he never told her, but he often went on dates. The young lady immediately asks when and with whom, to which he replies that he recently met a girl at work. Then he insists it's not about him. After all, he wanted to say that he knows a lot about this and that it's immediately obvious when someone is having an affair. Like they take better care of themselves or smile for no reason. Well, she never acted like that. Therefore, he wants to ask only one thing, and that is whether sister really wants to marry him. At this time, the brunette sits opposite the young lady's sister and realizes that 15 years have passed, and it seems that after the war, it was difficult for her to talk. They are still children who need protection and care, but there was no need to worry about them so much. After which, the man asks if Selina also doesn't want her sister to marry him. The girl then asks him what he is talking about, because she is very, very happy. The Count is surprised by this and asks if this is really so. And the girl replies that of course it is. After all, he is the hero of Canheim. The girl was frightened when the Count spoke to her, then said that such a great man would marry their Miel, so finally she will be happy. The man then says, that's how the little girl says that he's out of tea, so she'll pour some more. Well, when a girl takes a cup, she doesn't drop it on purpose. The Count asks if she is hurt, after which the girl only apologizes, and the man wonders if it really is true that apologizing is always a family thing. When the brunette bends down to pick up the shards of the cup, he hears the young lady's brother asking her if she really wants to marry the Count. The young lady replies that of course, for she loves the Count with all her heart. Then the young man turns to his sister, and she says it's written all over her face, and the girl asks if it's true. She also wonders if it's really so obvious from her face, and if the Count has noticed it too. At this time, the guy says that the most important thing to him is that she is happy with her loved one. So he apologizes for getting so worked up over nothing, and he knows the Count is a good man, so he was simply worried about her. The main character then says that now she needs to apologize to him, to which the guy agrees. But she also remembers that they left Selina alone. Their main character says that it's true, after all, the girl is now sitting alone with the Count. After which, the main character immediately runs out of the room and apologizes to Selina. Well, when she sees how these two are sitting calmly, she understands that it looks like she worried in vain. And the girl wonders if they really managed to get along, after which she apologizes to His Excellency for having to leave him so suddenly. The young lady also says that it is her brother, but he interrupts his sister and says that it is himself, after which the young man apologizes and says that he was rude because the matter concerned his family, so he could not restrain himself. Well, the brunette then says that it was he who confused everyone with his unexpected visit, and also apologizes. The main character watching this realizes it's a good thing everything worked out. The young lady also turns to Selina, asking what she has to say, and if she's happy that her sister is getting married. The girl then happily says that she really hopes that her sister will get married soon. The young lady thinks that, even though it's all a game, she's still very glad that they gave the go-ahead. At this time, the guy turns to his lordship and asks him to take care of his little sister, and also make her happy. A little while later, the main character returns with the Count, and thanks him, and also apologizes for her brother. The man replies that everything is fine, because he can be understood. He also recalls how the young lady spoke, that she loves the Count with all her heart, after which the guy said that it was written on her face. The man then says that when the girl asked to hire her at first, he thought she was a spy for Degain, who pretended to be a refugee, and the main character screams in shock, is he really all right? After which, the man replies that he knows, and says that maybe he was right then. The main character asks what he is talking about the guy. He replies that she did a great job last night. He also states that they are moving to a new house tomorrow, so let the girl pass this on to her brother and sister, which surprises the young lady. The guy says that it's better to sort this out quickly, so let her go pack her things, because they'll pick them up in the morning. The main character wonders why he did this all of a sudden, and the brunette replies that he will go. The girl then turns to his lordship and wants to say something else, but he just leaves, after which Miel sighs and heads home while the Count walks to the carriage. Then people ask who this is because he looks like a nobleman, and some of them wonder if this is a Count and what he is doing in this hole. Someone else says there might be some bad guy hiding there, but another resident says no and hopes nothing serious happens. Bernard, meanwhile, is thinking that the journey must have been too long, and he's very tired today. The chaotic day was replaced by a completely ordinary morning, and then the main character thinks to whom she is lying. At this time, Selena looks out the window and is surprised, and the main character thinks that this is the strangest morning since she has been there. The lady with cinnamon hair at this time tells her sister to just take a look because they are in Inyet Road, and there are only nobles there. At this time, Dennis asks his sister to say that they are going in the wrong direction, but at that very moment, someone replies that no, and that's right, because they are heading to Inyet Road. The knight also tells them not to worry, because they will be told everything upon arrival. First, they'll be taken to their rooms and then shown around the palace. Breakfast has also been prepared for them, so let them know if they're hungry. The protagonist agrees, but thinks she still feels very awkward. Inyet Road is the most luxurious area of the city, and no matter how much money you have, you can't just buy a house there. To buy a house there, you have to be a member of the very top, and she couldn't even dream of living there. A few hours ago, a girl in shock asked if they were really heading there. The knight replied to Miel that everything was as it should be, and the girl said it was too much, because how could she live in such an elite place? Allison, however, asked her not to worry, because it was only temporary. The young lady then tried to think it all over, and claimed that she didn't think it was right. After all, she can prepare for the wedding there. The knight then turns to the young lady and claims that he too is from a poor family. Therefore, he understands that she now feels as if she is out of place, and the clothes on her seem to be completely not made for her. But they chose this path themselves, and the girl will get used to it, or rather, should get used to it. The guy then says that he also thought that Inyet Road was too much, but it wouldn't even occur to their count, because for him, it's probably Inyet Road. It's just a beautiful neighborhood. The main character smiles afterward and says the guy's right. Now she's heading in a carriage and realizes she needs to get used to it. At this moment, one of the servants addresses the mistress, and he claims that the carriage is ready, after which the woman says that they are leaving. The butler asks if she will stay in the capital, and they were going to the county of Analsi. And the countess replies that she remembers, but what mother would sit idly by when her son gets married, so she must see his chosen one. A short time later, the main character is greeted. The worker claims his name is Dietrich, and that from now on, he will be assisting them. He is also the head butler. The guy claims she'll be staying at this estate for the next 2 months, so she should contact him for any questions. The girl then wonders if they really do have a temporary butler now, after which he says that it's good, and that they haven't seen Mr. Dietrich in a long time. The guy then says that he thought the lady didn't remember him, but they only saw each other briefly at Mr. Caios's funeral, so he's very pleased. But the young lady asks if it's okay that he's with them and not at the Arctis Palace. The young man replies that everything is fine, since both are the residents of the migrant count, and besides, his father is the chief steward. He also claims he'll be very happy to help the new countess. Meanwhile, Selena turns to her sister and asks, "What if they get lost there?" The red-haired guy claims that, compared to the count's permanent residence, this estate is a small house, after which he asks to be shown everything, and when they enter room 10, her husband claims there's a small living room there. It's close to Lady Selena's chambers, so they can safely invite friends there. But the little girl replies that she has no friends, after which the butler says that it's okay, because now she'll have some. He also asks what they will say, and the young lady, claims that it is a very large estate. The man also says that the lady has excellent taste and suggests they go further. But Selena turns to her little sister and says her legs are already hurting, the butler, then wonders how he didn't notice before. After which, he says that he will need to give Mrs. Miel some papers, so he asks to go into the office. A short time later, the main character, shocked, asks if this is really an application for admission to the Imperial Academy. The red-haired boy replies that it's true, because it's the best institute in the entire empire. But first, Mr. Dennis and Miss Selena will have to take the entrance exams. Afterward, he asks if the girl is happy. She replies, of course, and thanks them. And her. The little sister insists that things have indeed improved. The girl understands that the Count promised to provide them with a place to live, but she didn't expect it to be the Imperial Academy. Dietrich then said that Frau Miel would also have to study. The girl asks why, and the head butler replies that according to etiquette, the 5th grade Count's manners should not be impeccable. Of course they found the best teacher for her, after which the girl asks who it was, and the butler replies that everyone called her the Queen of Manners. She too was Countess Arctis. And this is Eliza Arctus. The young lady understands that this woman shone brighter than the others in the world. But after her husband fell into eternal sleep, she stopped appearing in it. And when her eldest son also passed away, she became a complete recluse. The woman wanted to leave the capital and return to her parents' home in Enal County. That's why now the main character is shocked and asks if Eliza Arctus really stayed in the capital, especially for her. The butler replies that everything is exactly like that, and the young lady says that she didn't even know what he was answering. That of course it was decided only this morning's. Miel is shocked by this and wonders if her future mother-in-law will really teach her. The girl also recalls how the red-haired lady said her friend had argued with her husband again and asked if she knew why. Miel replied no, and Catherine insisted it was all because of her mother-in-law, who didn't like anything and was always finding something to complain about. When her friend hears her mother-in-law's name, she shrinks back, and Catherine asks if Miel has ever encountered anything like this. The young lady then realized she was far removed from all of this. But now she is in shock, thinking that she should have asked Catherine about everything then, because suddenly Eliza wouldn't like her. At this point, someone turns to the butler and asks if he's there. The boy then turns to Mrs. Miel, and he claims that it looks like Mistress Eliza is already there. The main character is surprised by this. Well, the butler at that very moment grabs her hand and claims that this is their first meeting, so they need to get to her as quickly as possible. Miel realizes she's afraid of this woman. A little while later, they reach Madame Eliza. The knight greets her and says they haven't seen each other in a while, to which the woman replies that it's true. She also sees that Ellison has been appointed head of the guard. The boy replies that yes, but he still has a lot to learn. The woman suggests that he not talk nonsense because she is a good judge of character, after which she also tells the knight to tell how her son came up with the idea of getting married. But at that very moment, someone knocks on the room, after which the woman tells that person to come in. The main character standing at the door is nervous and wonders whether her mother-in-law will like her, after which she goes inside, and the woman asks if she is her son's fiancée. The main character realizes that this is Eliza Arctus herself, after which she tells Madame that she is glad to meet her and that her name is Miel Quarto. The girl realizes that she was in such a hurry to get there that she probably looks untidy. But at that very moment, the woman takes her hand, which surprises the young lady. Her interlocutor claims she sees the girl is overly worried. Well, everything is fine, after which the woman introduces herself and says that she is Bernard's mother. She's also very happy to meet Miel. The girl replies that the feeling is mutual, after which the woman asks if anyone would join her for tea. Miel replies that she would be happy to, and thinks that this woman is very kind, because all her fear instantly disappeared. The brunette claims that her son came to her out of the blue and announced that he was getting married. He said that they love each other, but she couldn't even imagine that someone would love such a rude person. He's quite something. The idiot claims she's certain he's completely inept when it comes to love. The young lady realizes she knows nothing about love herself, after which he claims that everything is not so, because he is very courteous and gentle. The woman asks if this is true, and if so, she is glad to hear that, at least around his beloved, he behaves differently. But she thought that he would never let anyone into his heart. That's why she's so happy that he's found himself a life partner and thanks the young lady. The girl only smiles afterward, but she understands that she must do what the count said, because no one should know the truth about them, after which the young lady thanks Lady Eliza for her trust. Miel understands that even if this means betraying someone's trust, she is willing to do so. After all, the count did a lot for her, and she must repay him, so now the girl is thinking about apologizing to Lady Eliza, and thinks that she is very sorry. The woman then suggests getting to the point, and asserts that the girl probably already knows why she came. Miel replies that, well, she was told the lady would teach her etiquette. The brunette replies that this was too general. After all, a lady will learn to walk and move gracefully, and also to wear dresses. It may all seem simple at first. However, in the light of this, everything is decided, even whether she plays or loses, so learning this is not easy. And the woman asks if she is ready, after which the young lady screams that before, and she will also try. Eliza says they'll start right now. Meanwhile, Dennis and Selena are reconciling their outfits. The young lady's younger sister says she doesn't think it suits her, but her brother just says how beautiful the girl is, and the butler insists it suits her very well. The main character recalls sitting with her grandmother. She insisted that it's important to know when to take advantage of an opportunity, and then no one will be able to deceive her, because she does not want others to deceive her. It's very rare that good opportunities come your way in life, and Miel is not very kind and naive. So one day, such an opportunity will come her way, and along with it, she will meet people who want to take advantage of it. A short time later, the butler turns to Madame Eliza and suggests that they stop for today. After all, Lady Miel isn't feeling very well. The girl realizes that Eliza has been teaching her etiquette for a week now. They learned to dance as well as tea-drinking manners. After they learned to dance, it became absolutely clear that she did not possess table etiquette and tea-drinking etiquette, not a drop of natural grace, and the girl thinks that she still doesn't fully understand what this means. The Countess insists that, as she suspected, the girl is a slow learner, and that etiquette is difficult to master. Meanwhile, the protagonist merely apologizes. But the woman replies that it is not she who should apologize, since it was her son who decided to get married too soon. She also tells the girl that she doesn't have to endure it, because they are no longer boss and subordinate. So she needs to tell Bernie everything she's unhappy with. The young lady ponders what she doesn't like about the county, and wonders if all couples act this way. At this time, the butler asks Madame Eliza whether she should serve him dinner, to which the woman replies yes. The young lady at this time understands that Eliza is kind to her because she thinks that she and the Count are in love, and this kindness is meant only for Bernard's beloved, not for her. And the girl thinks that maybe that's why it's so difficult for her, because she's not in her place. Sir Ellison, through his outstanding abilities, rose to command the knights, and Catherine was always at the forefront of the battlefield. They achieved everything they have today through their own efforts. After which, the young lady thinks, what about her? After all, now she has a luxurious estate, the kindness of Lady Eliza. Well, she shouldn't have accepted all this because she was chosen for this role, and she just happened to be in the right place at the right time. At this time, the Countess asks the young lady if she likes the food, to which she replies that it is very tasty, and the woman states that she is very happy. At this time, the main character is thinking about what will happen to her when all this is over. A little while later, the girl heads back, and the Countess says that she can rest. The heroine agrees and thanks her for today. At that moment, the butler addresses the young lady. Eliza asks, "What's the matter?" and he apologizes for bothering her, but he just arrived at the Count's. Miel wonders if the Count has arrived now, and Eliza says how impudent it is to show up there at such an hour. Well, I can't refuse him. After all, he hasn't seen his fiancée for a week. The main character is only embarrassed by this, and the Countess says that because of her, they didn't have time to see each other at all. After which, she also turns to Dietrich and tells him to serve tea, to which the guy replies that everything will be ready now, and he will serve tea in the study. The young lady, meanwhile, is wondering what has gotten into the Count and why he should just visit him. Well, she can't forget that he's just using her. Grandma used to talk about people like that. She said that they first look at her and then out of the blue start tempting her. I offer something that is irresistible, so the girl understands that she needs to be careful, although she has nothing to lose anyway. Well, they might deceive her and then start pushing her around. Now the young lady looks at the Count, and Eliza says that he was not allowed to enter. The guy then simply heads towards the young lady and apologizes for coming so late, and he knows she's had a hard time. The girl is surprised afterward and watches as the guy kisses her hand. After this, the brunette claims that the week dragged on like an eternity and asks if everything is okay with her. The main character replies that yes, and the Countess watches all this and is surprised. Miel is about to answer, but then she sees her husband's gaze, which tells her to act more naturally. At this time, Eliza says that of course he missed his beloved, and so be it this time she forgives. At this point, the brunette says that it's time for them to announce the wedding, and the Countess replies that she agrees, as it would be ideal to hold a reception in honor of the engagement. But time is on their side, and besides, journalists are always watching the residences. But the brunette replies that then it would be to their advantage if Vitya didn't gather all the journalists and introduce Miel to them. The main character then asks in shock if she will really be introduced to the journalists, and Eliza says she agrees because it's better if they do it this way, but the young lady then asks if that won't lead to gossip. The woman replies that their marriages will be gossiped about anyway, And wouldn't it be better for them to control the situation and also acquire supporters? After all, people only like love stories more than scandals, and the hero who saved the empire fell in love with an ordinary girl when he returned from the battlefield. The woman asks if it's romantic, since it's like something out of a romance novel. The young lady replies that she's right. The girl also understands that her younger sister also really likes such stories. Meanwhile, the Count says that in order for society to receive this news, well, it is necessary to make an official statement to journalists. Then no one will write dirty articles. The young lady feels the guy's hand on her shoulder and, embarrassed, says, yes. The guy also turns to Miel and says that it is for the common good, so let her not let him down. After this, the Countess turns to her son, a little surprised, and he asks what is going on. After which, the woman replies that nothing, and Bernard claims that he will talk to Miele. The young lady at this point realizes that Eliza had this face. Meanwhile, the woman turns to her son again, and she tells him not to put pressure on the girl, after which the guy replies that it's okay, and tells Miel to follow him. The young lady recalls her grandmother, telling her that she might have nothing to lose, but these people might deceive her, and then blackmail her. The grandmother's words just won't leave her head, as if she had just told them to her, and she knows that the Count is not deceiving her. After all, he was the first to come to her aid when she needed it most, and not only helped her with work and money, but also found homes for her younger children. She just wants to repay him and live like the nobles. That's why she wants to get at least a little closer to him, and she is also using the Count. When they leave, the guy turns to Miel and says that he hopes she will be more careful in the future. The girl answers his lordship that of course, because in future she will try harder. The very next day, preparations began in full swing, and the first thing to do was to restore the Quarto family coat of arms. That is, she was supposed to become a noblewoman again. A little while later, the knight asks what she has to say and if everything is in place. The girl replies that everything seems to be as it should be, and thanks Lord Ellison. The young lady also thinks how could she not be happy after all she was told the Count would pay off the family debts. But she doesn't really want to see the faces of the debt collectors again. The guy insists she doesn't look very happy, but the young lady smiles and insists she's very happy because it turned out so beautifully. Allison says she doesn't have to pretend. If a girl is worried about debt collectors, then there is no need, because the amount is not that large, so they will quickly sort everything out. The young lady is then shocked and wonders if the amount really isn't that big, and after all, the family has been trying to pay off this debt their whole lives. After which she thinks that maybe she should just let the situation go and be glad that everything was resolved so easily. The guy then claims they're having a roundtable discussion next. The girl is surprised, and he asks if this is where the nobles gather. The guy claims she's become even more gloomy, but the young lady replies that on the contrary, she's full of enthusiasm. The girl understands that the Round Table is a political advisory body established by the nobility. In reality, its members are noblemen who absolutely refuse to leave the political arena, and their duties include something important: compiling an annual census of nobles. Allison insists that the Quarto family needs the Round Table's approval for next year's nobility list. Miel will have to face them alone, and the boy asks if she can handle it. The girl replies that yes, and she understands that most of the Round Table members won't cause any problems, so the task shouldn't be difficult. She also recalls someone asking if she was the Count's shadow. One of the nobles said he saw her. Well, then someone asked who they were talking about, after which one of the aristocrats claimed that this girl had been accompanying Count Arctus for several years. But who would have thought that she was from an impoverished noble family? This man is the Marquis of Romaine. The man asks what else the poor girl had left, since the family was deeply in debt. The girl realizes that this man is the emperor's older brother, and much younger than the other members. This means that he got there not for his exceptional qualities, and at the same time, he claims that the honor of a nobleman should not be tarnished by debts. The young lady then answers the Marquess that she has already said that the debts have been paid by Count Arctus, after which he asks if it's true the nose is interested in whether everything is so simple, and whether they really want to take and solve the problem with money, because it seems that the Count is still intoxicated by the glory of a military hero and does whatever he wants. The girl understands that the Marquis has no choice but to make open attacks against the Count, because this is an excellent opportunity to humiliate him. A little while later, she leaves and realizes that she thought that everything would pass quickly, but the meeting dragged on. And now she needs to return quickly and also prepare for a meeting with journalists. At this time, someone addresses the Count's shadow, and the girl realizes that it is the Marquise. She also thinks she didn't want to interact with this man any longer than necessary. But then she bows, and the man asserts that Count Arctus means to restore the glory of their family. And the Count, of course, cares for his people, but he doesn't do it without a reason. Miel understands that he harbors a grudge against the Count and is trying to show his superiority. The girl then claims that the Count's kindness knows no bounds. She also understands that it all has to do with Romion's son, who aspired to be crown prince. But Count Bernard became the hero who defended the country, and Cesario the one who abandoned Canhaim to its fate. People gossiped a lot about this, and naturally, after this, they stopped considering his son for the role of crown prince. After all, he is completely unsuitable for this. The Marquis only laughs at this point, and he says that this scoundrel Bern solves all problems with money, and they say that he refused the princess. And all this is because of another woman. So the man asks if all this is because of her. Of course, apparently, he likes quiet girls like her, and he is nowhere near the strong-willed Hilda. And the girl agreed to marry him on the condition that he pay off all his debts and return her title. After which he says that it's not bad and he would also agree to this, but she's just... The girl then interrupts the Marquis and says that she no longer knows what she expects to hear from her. But she does not intend to speak ill of her superiors, so she asks them to take their hands off her. The man only gets angry after this and cries out at the sheer impudence of this. He wants to cry out again about Bernard. But at the same moment, someone turns to the Marquis and asks if he needs his subordinate for some reason. The main character understands that this is the Count, and the man screams that he will never let her get away with such disrespect. Then he asks who they hire. Bernard asks if he's talking about humiliation, and the man screams out exactly what. After all, he decided to help the lady, and this is how she repaid him. The girl realizes she gave in to her emotions. And this man insulted the Count, so she could not restrain herself, and created problems for him again. At this time, the Count turns to the Marquise and says that Miel is not like that, because he must have made a mistake. Because the girl would never have insulted such a noble man as he, especially in front of strangers. Otherwise, she would not have worked for him. So the brunette asks the Marquis if he's sure that's exactly how it happened. The man then insists that they must have completely forgotten that he's a member of the imperial family. After which he also asks, what is it about this woman that they allow her to do so much? The brunette then says that this woman will soon become his wife. The young lady then whispers to His Excellency why he said that, and they wanted to keep it all a secret. The Marquise then turns around angrily and says they'll regret it. The Count claims that he will now go and complain to the Emperor, and her Naledi says that then they will have problems. After all, if everything becomes known before the meeting with the journalists, it would be a disaster. The main character also wonders how long he stood there before approaching them, and whether he really heard everything. Well, then she also thinks that if he heard everything, he would hardly have stood up for her, and she doesn't want to hear how her Count is being insulted. After which they stand there, and the young lady begins to feel uneasy. The Count then breaks the silence and says that they need to prepare for the meeting, to which the young lady replies that they certainly do. A little while later, they meet the knights, who ask what brings the Count to the imperial palace. He also sees Lady Miel, so he turns to his lordship and asks if he doesn't have an appointment with Count Calton in the next wing. The brunette notes that he was passing by, and that he has an important task for Ellison's. Let him move the meeting with journalists earlier and gather everyone today. The main character and the knight are then shocked and ask if they really have to meet today out of the blue. A little while later, the Countess says that there is no control over her son, and how can one change all plans so abruptly? And so what if he knows almost nothing about all the administrative nuances, and she won't even notice that he is her son? The main character at this time thinks that perhaps he is because of... He transferred everything so abruptly, and apparently he is counting on getting ahead of Romion. So in her mind, she apologizes to Mrs. Eliza. The woman asks the child what kind of face she has, so she should smile a little, because she's so beautiful today. The maid brings her mistress a mirror and tells her to take a look, and if she doesn't like anything, they'll fix it right away. The young lady replies that she likes everything and understands that she has never been so dressed up. Then the maid claims that today she was prepared in a hurry, but she still did wonderfully, so the latter is afraid, because at the wedding she will definitely be even more beautiful, and she will make a real princess out of her. The girl then understands that she will never understand the full scale, but at that very moment, someone knocks on the door and asks if they are ready because the meeting will start soon. A little while later, the main character leaves the room, after which the butler is surprised. And then he keeps telling her that his mistress is the most beautiful of all, and asks if she wants to make their count fall in love with her again. The main character is only embarrassed by this, and Eliza asks where the guy's manners are, but she also claims that she agrees with him. At this time, the young lady wonders if the count will fall in love with her because of this dress, and the woman tells the girl not to worry during the meeting, not to be nervous, and to just be with herself. The main character then smiles and tells Mrs. Eliza that it is good. A little while later, she comes up to his lordship and apologizes because he has probably been waiting for a long time. The guy replies that they are running late and suggests that they hurry, but the young lady remains silent, and she understands that he didn't say anything, so apparently she expected too much. Contrary to expectations, the meeting with journalists went smoothly and without any unnecessary problems. Bernard Arctus announced that he would marry a girl from an impoverished noble family who worked for him as an assistant in the spring, so he refused the princess. The journalists were upset by this news, but for them it was a sensation, so they inundated her with questions. One of the journalists said that he heard that her family had a lot of debt, so he asked how she would pay it off. But the brunette insisted she wouldn't answer such questions. The count deflected all the awkward questions, and when the journalists wanted to object, the man simply asked why they needed to know. The girl understands that she feels comfortable with him, but she also wonders if the journalists will provoke him even more. One of them then whispers to the other that it is true after all, and the count is trying to protect her. And apparently, he truly loves Mrs. Meal. The main character at this point is shocked and wonders if she misheard. And so others think he's a fool who's lost his head in love. She's also curious about what people think of her. Finally, the meeting was ending. One of the journalists spoke up and asked His Excellency whether he thought he was rushing into the wedding too much, and he dared not be unfounded. But not even half a year had passed since Count Caius had fallen into eternal sleep, after which he asked what he would say about it. The man then only asks what he is hinting at, and the journalist claims that there are many rumors about the late Count's immersion in eternal sleep, and that he also heard that there are problems within their family. So isn't the news of their wedding an attempt to distract attention? The young lady wonders why he's asking such questions. She also understands that everyone listened to that journalist without saying a word and stared intently at the Count's tense face. Some seemed concerned that the Count would lose his temper, while others were eagerly awaiting his comments. But the main character understands that the Count himself did not feel very well after this question. She also realizes that he has the same expression he had. Then meanwhile, the journalist tells the Count that he's not accusing anyone. But at that very moment, someone claims he's overstepping his bounds. It turns out to be the main character. She claims that the Imperial Investigative Committee has already issued a conclusion, so raising this issue now is in pursuit of a sensation. This is too much even for a journalist. The guy then says she's right and then apologizes. And the butler then states that if there are no more questions, then they will end the meeting. So he asks everyone not to crowd and to proceed to the exit. The young lady then turns to the Count and asks how he is. A few hours earlier, someone in the palace was saying goodbye to the Count. The man then thought that being a count was not so easy and that commanding knights suited him better. He also understood that today Miel would be at the round table meeting, and the Marquise would probably arrange another fight. The Marquis has a grudge against him, as do all his men. They'll definitely find fault with the Miel family's reputation, and she couldn't stand it alone. But the man then thought, so what? No matter how stubborn the Marquis was, it wouldn't affect Miel's status, and it wasn't something to worry about. But a little while later, he had already approached the corridor leading to the round table meeting room. And I also wondered what she was doing there, since the meeting should have ended long ago, after which he realized it was time for him to return. Well, just as he was about to leave, he heard a familiar voice. It was the Marquis, and he claimed that, of course, apparently, he liked quiet girls like her. After the Count looked behind the door, he realized that the Marquis and Miel were there. The man then asked whether the girl agreed to marry a Graf on the condition that he pay off all his debts and return her title. The brunette was about to turn to the marquise after this, but the young lady did so first. He understood that the girl did not behave as he expected, after which the lady claimed that she did not know what he expected to hear from her. But she has no intention of speaking ill of her superiors, so she asks the marquise to take his hands off her. There was no fear in Miel as she looked her opponent straight in the eye, and there wasn't a shadow of doubt in her voice, as if she had nothing to fear at all. Now the Count understands that she's weak and quiet, and he thought that she didn't know how to fight back. But then why did she agree to marry him? The man also thinks that after the term expires, Miel will lose a lot, and after the divorce, she will not be able to live in the same luxury as before, and will not be able to return to her old life. The stigma of being the Count's ex-wife will remain with her for the rest of her life, and she knows this no worse than he does. So the man wonders why she took his side. He also wonders if he was expecting this, and even knowing her fate, the girl isn't afraid. Then Bernard realizes it's best not to think about it, and now he needs to worry about how to protect his domain for 3 whole years. It's his duty to his brother. At this time, someone addresses his lordship, and the guy sees that it is Mieli. He asks if the girl has come for something, and she replies that she had to stay late today, so she apologizes. The brunette also asks why she put her uniform on again, and the young lady replies that the dress is dirty. One of the maids apologized to Lady Miel a little while ago and claimed that she accidentally spilled tea, but the girl said that it was nothing serious. Now she apologizes to the Count and claims that she knows that the work uniform now looks ridiculous, to which the man replies that yes, and she has something to apologize for. After all, here before him is finally the Miel he knows. The man also rises from his seat and declares that today has been a very difficult day, so let her rest, after which he also thanks the girl. The young lady then ponders what to think now. After all, when she was in that dress, he didn't even bat an eyelid. But when he saw her in uniform, he smiled and even thanked hers. So she has no idea what came over him, but she knows for sure that that smile was sincere. After which she smiles herself and understands that the Count smiled at her and is thinking, what should she do now? Now she wouldn't put on a dress for any amount of money. The prince is at a banquet at this time and claims that a lot of time has passed, so he is interested in how his interlocutors have chewed. One of them replies that they have too much to tell, and Lord Remus helped them a lot. After which they continue their stories about the prince, thinking how it annoys him, because before they called him His Highness, and now that he has lost his title, they address him as Lord. The guy also wonders how these useless idiots ended up in his circle. And if it weren't for that damn Bernard, everything would be fine. At this moment, someone addresses my lord, and he whispers that the Marquis Romain has come to see him. The boy asks if his father has gotten into debt again, after which he tells the butler to call him, but he whispers that the matter is very important, so it is better to discuss it in a private setting. The blonde asks what this matter is, after which the butler replies that it is about Count Arctus. A little while later, the boy approaches his father, who claims that the Count is getting married. But the prince asks, what's the point of coming to him to discuss such a trivial matter as someone else's marriage? The man then asks the brat how he talks to his father. But the blonde is only interested in whether this means that the Count preferred Brunhilde has some subordinate. He also says that this is of course surprising, but what of it? And perhaps his uncle will be a little upset. But the blonde replies that if he doesn't answer, now Bernard has a huge weakness. The guy then inquires about this. And the man claims that they are narcissistic civil servants, and on top of that, a refugee of unknown origin. The very existence of this woman in the Count's life is his great weakness. She completely deprived him of his head, and the guy himself does not understand what he is doing, but he understands perfectly well, so now it is Serarius's turn to act. And isn't he a master of his craft? The guy only smiles after this and asks if the man is talking about Bernard's woman. And that's already interesting. The very next day, news of the Count's wedding appeared on the front pages of every newspaper. Miel Quarto was afraid that articles would appear criticizing the Count, but fortunately, none did. But the problem is that a lot of articles have come out that defame Princess Brunhilde. Catherine then screams out why they wrote such things, and made it look like Miel is the princess's enemy. One of the knights claims that this is partly true, and his friend claims that they are rivals for the man's heart. The lady with red hair claims that everything is wrong, and the idea of the engagement is entirely the idea of the imperial family. The princess didn't seem to be personally involved in any way. One of the guys asks if it's true. Another one claims he thought they were in love. Catherine then tells them to ignore those articles. After all this is all the work of the imperial family, you girl also say how vile it is to shift all the blame onto Miel alone. Well, then someone claims that no one blames Miel, but it's all about her, and very soon she will become a countess. Catherine replies that it is. One of the knights argues that since they were so close, she will probably be very upset. Or worse, he'll start getting jealous. Catherine, then shocked, asks what they're talking about. One of them asks if they could explain it in plain language. It's because they're very close, and now her status will change dramatically. And the rest of the nobles still didn't accept her. The young man then insists he's extremely jealous and wonders if he too can marry the count's daughter. Another one insists he's jealous of his excellency and that now nothing will work out between him and Miel. At this time, Catherine is only silent and understands that no matter what is happening in Miel's life now, she will still remain her friend. A little while later, one of the maids approaches the mistress and states that she will now help her with the bathroom, and if something doesn't suit her, then let the mistress immediately let her know, to which the main character agrees. And the maid suggests that she not be shy and speak as she feels comfortable, to which the main character replies, of course, and he asks if this is better. Early in the morning, the girl received a letter from Eliza. The woman invited her to have breakfast together, and a little while ago the girl asked the butler if they didn't have breakfast there, to which he replied that no, and they were going somewhere else. To the count's residence, the young lady realizes that she thought so, and the entire capital is gossiping about their wedding. This wasn't just an invitation to breakfast from Eliza. The butler asked the lady if she wanted to go, but he knew she had no other choice. The young lady replied that of course she did, and that she simply had to go. Miel understands that this is a public endorsement of her as a future daughter-in-law, and now there is definitely no turning back. One of the maids then approaches Miel and asks if what was written in the morning article is true. The protagonist asks what it was about, after which the maid asks if it is true that the count preferred her princess. At this time, another maid screams at Avery that it is also not nice to ask about such a thing. And after that, the girl immediately apologizes to the lady, saying she wasn't paying attention to what she was saying. The young lady realizes that this girl is about the same age as Selena, after which she says everything is fine, and that the girl shouldn't be scolded. But she also tells the maid to be careful what she says about the princess. And that's her advice. Well, then the main character thinks that the article was published, and she wonders how angry the princess was. But she's the one who's most afraid to read it, after which the girl sighs completely. A little while later, one of the maids asks if the other heard what Miel said. Her interlocutor replies that it's very kind of her, and that their mistress works hard, is kind, and always treats her servants politely. Her brother and sister are also very pretty, and Miel's warmth is immediately palpable. And such warmth arises not at all towards the lady, but rather towards the friend with whom you work. One of the maids then asks if her colleague is really saying that being a countess isn't for her. The other maid replies that she doesn't, but rather that she should be more careful in the future and avoid making mistakes like Avery. One of them then asks her colleague if she'd like to live like Miel, fall in love with a rich man and live like a fairy tale, but Da replies that she doesn't want to, although she wouldn't mind. One of the maids says that this girl lives. There will be no obstacles in her path to a life where she lives. The maid thinks she understands why Avery is jealous. She wants to be genuinely happy for her mistress, because she's much closer to her than some kind of princess in a castle in the air. A little while later, the countess greets the girl and says that she has probably been preparing for breakfast since early morning, after which he tells her to come in. When they sit down at the table, the woman apologizes for inviting the girl in so early. Well, the main character replies that she knows that this is how it should be, because all the public's attention is focused on them, after which the woman thanks her for her understanding. But she claims that it's not just about that, because she wanted to thank the girl for yesterday. The young lady then remembers that journalist, but then says that she was the count's assistant, or better yet, his lover. Of course she had to react to the woman's answer, that no, and Bernard had to answer such a delicate question himself. Well, she also understands everything, because some people doubt the official version of Chaos's immersion into eternal sleep. Some say the imperial family hired an assassin, others say it was the work of foreign spies, and still others claim Bernard himself put his brother into eternal sleep. The young lady understands that if Bernard deserved the title of Count for his services, his older brother had nothing to brag about, so some people think that the Count, blinded by the thirst to obtain the title, may well have plunged his brother into eternal sleep. The woman at this time claims that this is funny, but Bern did not refute anything because he thinks that it was his fault that this happened. The young lady realizes that Lord Chaos has fallen into eternal sleep as a result of falling from his horse. The only odd coincidence was that he mounted Count Bernard's horse that day. The brothers didn't usually exchange horses, and no signs of outside interference were found. But not reacting to the accusations of plunging her own brother into eternal sleep is too much, and the girl wonders if there is really something else that she doesn't know about. But even if she doesn't know everything she believes in the Count, and doesn't want to remind him again of the loss of a loved one, the woman then says that it seems the girl doesn't want to continue the conversation, and that's okay if that's the case. The woman also says that's fine, and she's rushing things too much, so she apologizes. The main character is wondering what she's talking about, and the brunette is wondering if the girl is busy today, because if she doesn't have any important things to do, then they need to go somewhere, as her companion Kana should help the girl with her appearance. And besides, isn't it time for them to think about her wedding dress? Her wedding dress, and realizes she's getting married soon. She then claims she doesn't have anything special today, so that's fine. The woman replies that that's great, and in the future they will often appear together in society, and every time all eyes will be on them. Miel claims that she will behave carefully, and the woman asks why she is not trying to intimidate the girl. It just needs to be shown that they have a very good relationship, and she thinks that they shouldn't discuss it now. The young lady then says that it's fine, and the woman claims that she understands that the girl is still getting used to it. And he doesn't ask her to open up right away, but let her remember that from the very first day, she already thought of her as a member of their family, and that's all she asks of her. The young lady then realizes she thought she was being given a favor, which she shouldn't accept, after which the girl tells Mistress Eliza that it's fine, and she thought the same about her. The young lady also understands that it's wrong to shut herself away from Mistress Eliza. When it's all over, no one knows what will happen, but we still need to start getting used to each other. That's exactly what she thought at the very beginning. At this time, a fashion designer named Bellini realizes that she has been given the honor of sewing a wedding dress for the future countess, but she is afraid of something. After all, the Count's newlywed bride, who surpassed the princess herself, is an ordinary civil servant. And who would have thought that even in the highest circles, people think of their story as a romantic fairy tale? But it is obvious that such a fairy tale is not to everyone's liking. If she sews the perfect dress, she might incur the wrath of Madame Eliza. But at that very moment, someone runs into the atelier and claims that the Countess invited Madame Miel to breakfast, and that they just arrived there together. And it seems they're very close, which shocks the girl. Meanwhile, the Countess turns to Miel and says, "The shop may be small, but the selection there is very good. So let the girl feel free to choose any dress she likes." Meanwhile, the designer thinks how lucky she is, because now no one will stop her from sewing the most beautiful dress. Then she turns to Mrs. Eliza and says that she is glad to welcome her. And the young lady thinks that she does not understand anything about dresses and wonders if she will be able to choose something normal. The girl also remembers how last time she didn't know at all what to do. At this time, the Countess turns to her and asks how she likes her dress, to which the girl replies that it is cute. The woman understands that she apparently doesn't like it, and the designer points to another one and claims that Mrs. Miel is thin, so a dress that emphasizes her figure would suit her. The girl then replies that she likes it, but the Countess asks if it looks like what the princess wore last season, after which they offer a few more dresses and ask what the young lady has to say. She replies that they are all beautiful, but then she apologizes to Mrs. Elizabeth and claims that she does not know. The woman then turns to Bellini and asks if she will leave them for a minute, after which the girl agrees. The Countess then turns to the young lady and tells her that she needs to learn something thoroughly before entering into family life. And this is so that she never changes in front of anyone, because she has nothing to fear and nothing to apologize for. No one will blame her for having difficulty choosing a dress, whether at the Count's estate or elsewhere. Therefore, in the future, let the lady know that she has nothing and no one to apologize to, not even to the Count, because they are no longer boss and subordinates, but husband and wife. That is, they no longer have a relationship where he commands and she obeys, and now they are equal, and each shares their opinion. They must discuss any problems and make decisions together. This means they must stand together against injustice, respect and support each other. This doesn't mean a girl can do whatever she wants, but let her keep her head held high. And if she truly has nothing to apologize for, then she shouldn't. The main character is pondering this at this point, wondering if this could possibly be about her and the Count. At this moment, the fashion designer comes into the room and apologizes for interrupting, but she brought a dress that Mrs. Miel will definitely like. The Countess asks if she'll show it to her, after which the girl reveals the dress. Their main character in the shop says that this is it. At this time in the Count's office, someone turns to His Excellency and talks about the newspaper that was sent from the estate of Count Caltaine. The man says he's had enough of the gossip about his marriage, so he suggests they discuss more urgent matters. The knight replies that they need to figure out the wedding budget. After which, the brunette claims that he, of course, knows that things in the administrative department sometimes take a strange turn. But why is he, who is the head of the guard, responsible for the budget? After all, there must be a person in the administrative department responsible for this. After which the guy asks His Excellency if it's true that he didn't know. After all, the person responsible for distributing the budget was Countess Quarto. After this, the man asks if she really did this, and if that is why the administration is now in such a mess. The guy replies that it probably is. And the Count understands that he knew that the girl was taking on other responsibilities in addition to her main ones, but he thought that this only concerned his assignments. He thought that, on the contrary, she had less work after the girl started working with him. But no. From important matters, such as going out or meeting with dignitaries, to something simple. For example, compiling a gift list. Miel handled all of this, and it was only thanks to her that he could fully immerse himself in his own work. Now the man asks why he didn't know anything about this, and the nights are cancelled. And he claims he thought the gentleman knew everything. The man then says he didn't ask him just now. He also asks what his mother is doing today, to which he replies that she said she was going shopping with Mrs. Miel today, and that they're probably on Atra Road now. The Brit asks if it wouldn't have been better to go to another street. But the knight replies that most likely the lady has seriously begun preparing for the wedding, since she sells the most beautiful wedding dresses on this street. At this point, the woman realizes that if they decide to get married, they must be prepared to invest a significant amount of time, money, and effort. They need to choose a wedding venue and date, create a guest list, and decide on the menu. Choosing a suit for the groom and a million other accessories is essential. A lot needs to be done to honor and prepare for the most important event in a couple's life. The designer insists they need beautiful dresses and makeup. Well, the Count didn't have to worry about all that. Usually, the preparations are done by servants, and the Count does not have to be present during all of this. Therefore, although the guy was the first to talk about the wedding, he had no idea how to prepare for it. The man also understands that since they are going to have a wedding, Miel must wear a wedding dress. After which he looks at one of them and thinks that it would not suit Miel at all. Well, then he imagines a girl in this dress and gets a little embarrassed. But then he thinks about what he's thinking about. After all, the girl is his subordinate and only carries out his orders. They do this to avoid problems with the imperial family. At this time, someone approaches the guy and he asks if it is his mother. The woman claims that the guy arrived quickly, after which she says that he wanted to talk to her about something. And then he asks if this is really Togo's excuse for seeing Miel. The guy then says he came to talk to his mother. And the woman claims that it doesn't matter why he's there, but he's just in time, because at such moments, it's important to choose together with your future husband. She also turns to the young lady and asks if she is ready yet, to which the girl replies that yes. The fashion designer at this time claims that they still couldn't choose a dress. Well, she thinks it's just right. The brunette, looking at the young lady, is a little surprised, and then turns to her. The main character, noticing His Excellency, is only embarrassed. Eliza, meanwhile, says it suits her very well, and asks what Bernie will say. At this time, the guy looks at the dress and realizes that it bears her shoulders, and wonders if it is too revealing. Afterwards, the two exchange glances, and the Count becomes embarrassed. His mother, meanwhile, tells him not to embarrass their fiancée. The man then claims that this dress suits her very well, and the woman asks if the lady heard, and also if she likes this dress, to which the girl replies that yes, she likes it very much. The woman then turns to her son and asks if he likes it, but he replies that the most important thing is that Miel likes it. Eliza asks Bernie if he wants her to try on other dresses, but he replies that he likes this one. The main character understands that in this case, the Count she knows would say that there is no need to waste so much time on this. But for some reason, the Count wasn't acting like himself. The guy insisted he'd go then, and the brunette asked if he'd wanted to talk to her about something. Bernard replies that he stopped by to say that they decided to allocate more money for the wedding, so they should get ready and not worry about anything. The woman says this is wonderful news, then turns to Miel and tells her not to worry about money and asks if she wants something special. The young lady says that's good and she understands, and the woman insists that they'll take the dress. Then time flies. Sienna and Dennis entered the academy without any problems, and they may not immediately get used to the new place, but the girl is very happy that they are finally receiving a good education. He and Eliza began to appear together more often, and people gradually stopped whispering about their marriage. But one day, when the girl was outside the office, one of the workers asked another why he was always following the Countess, leaving him alone. He replied that the Count was very busy as he had a wedding coming up. But the other one replied that they were doing it, after which he said that if they really had an affair, no one would have even found out about it. So it was some kind of setup. At that moment, the main character enters the room, and the two are surprised. They then ask if it's Miel. The girl just smiles after that, and one of the guys greets her and asks how she's doing business and what she's doing there. The young lady replies that she just signed her resignation papers, after which she goes to her desk, and her colleagues say that they will see each other again then. The young lady realized they were supposed to be pretending to be lovers, or she'd misunderstood something. But since the wedding dress fitting, the Count hasn't appeared again. If people saw them together at least once, there would be less talk, and she thought that they would go somewhere together, for example, on a date. Well, the girl thinks why he doesn't come to her, and whether she really gave herself away. The Count also noticed that she had feelings for him and decided not to fulfill the agreement any longer. But even if that were the case, he would definitely have told her about it because he's probably just very busy. So she'd better think about what she needs to do. The girl realizes she'd arranged for the things to be delivered to Annette Rowe, directly to the Count's estate. She also realizes that she has collected all her things and documents and cleaned out the old house on Tyne Road. Eliza's etiquette classes and wedding preparations are over, so all that remains is to hold the wedding. Well, when the girl goes to bed, she understands that tomorrow is the wedding, and she still hasn't really seen the Count. The lady realizes that she wanted to ask Allison what was wrong with Bernard, but she was afraid that he would suspect something. But now the girl thinks she should have asked after all, and she thought the Count would at least visit her once and tell her they were getting married tomorrow. That's why she's worried and can't sleep. The girl realizes she needs to count sheep, and also to fall asleep at any cost, after which the young lady thinks so. But then instead of a lamb, she sees a Count. He apologizes to the young lady, and the girl asks if this is really his lordship and why he has horns. The guy replies that he was too busy and apologizes for not coming to see her. She must have been very upset because she likes him too, which the young lady replies that yes, she was upset too. She also knows he doesn't feel anything for her, but since they're pretending to be a couple, they could at least have a normal conversation. The guy replies that yes, and maybe he's not that sensitive, so he apologizes for that, and he asks if she will forgive him. At this moment, the girl hears someone speaking to her. Then he realizes she's actually at the table. The butler asks if everything is all right, and if the lady is feeling unwell. But the main character replies that everything is fine, because she is just a little worried. The lady also understands that she is somewhere in the clouds, and that she had a rather strange dream today. The girl wonders if it was all just nerves, and if she was hurt and sad. The young lady thinks this is nonsense, and how could she even think of such a thing? Meanwhile, the young lady's brother says his sister needs to eat more, but the butler insists the dress must fit perfectly. So today, I'll have to limit myself. Well, let her not worry, because everything on the plate is the healthiest. At this time, Selena turns to her sister and asks if it's true that she's getting married today, and she replies that yes, after which he asks Selena what happened, but the girl replies that the guys from the academy told him that when her sister marries the Count, she will become his kept woman, and the girl also asks if they are no longer a family. The main character then, in shock, asks who told her that, after which she claims that of course everything is not so. The girl also thinks how come she didn't think about this before, because the guys are parting with her for the first time in their lives. Miel claims that no matter how far they are from each other, and how long they don't see each other, they will forever remain as a family. Selena replies that she knows, and just when she thinks about her sister getting married, she realizes that she only took from her without giving anything in return. And now she wonders if she'll ever be able to repay her for everything. The main character then takes her sister's hands, and he thanks her, after which he states that he will accept everything from her, and if the girl misses him, then she can come at any time. After all, she'll always be welcome. Miel also tells them to come to her so they can hug. The butler watches all this and then realizes that it is time to start preparing. Miss Miel informs them about this. The girl replies that yes, and understands that from today on, everything will change completely. Her home and life, as well as her relationship with her brother and sister, and people's attitudes towards her, and also her relationship with the Count. The young lady realizes her palms are sweaty, and she thought that she wouldn't worry so much, but after all, she hadn't seen him for a long time. At this time, the brunette turns to Miel and says that her hands are shaking, but the girl replies that everything is fine. She also thinks what she should do because she can't even lift her head, and how good it is that she has a veil on. Meanwhile, the young lady's relatives and friends are watching her. A short time later, they approach the priest, and he pronounces them husband and wife. The girl thinks that's it, but only now does it occur to her that she's been staring at the floor the whole time. She also wonders if she really didn't mess anything up while things were like this, but she didn't even greet the Count properly and even seemed rude to him, so I need to apologize immediately. But at that moment, the guy lifts the veil and then whispers that that's not all. After all, there was a kiss left. The main character then asks in shock what he was talking about. The Count replies that it's a necessary part since everyone is looking at them now. But the young lady wonders what to do and whether they should really just go and kiss. Her heart is about to jump out of her chest, so the girl thinks that she is definitely sleeping. The Count apologizes to Miel and then kisses her. Miel feels her nervousness vanish as if it had never been there, and the world around her seemed to disappear. The lady realized she had only ever wanted one thing, and that was for time to stand still, even if only for a moment. After the ceremony, all that remained was the small matter. The Count, deciding she'd suffered enough, said he would bid farewell to the guests. Although they were supposed to do it together, and the girl thinks that, to be honest, she's even glad. After all, it was unlikely that she would be able to squeeze out even a word now. And besides, if they crossed paths with the guys, they would all be awkward. After which, the girl begins to fall asleep completely. A little while later, the Count turns to Miel. The young lady opens her eyes, then screams, and asks if this is His Excellency, but he replies that they have arrived at the residence. Miel looks around and realizes that she clearly remembers being in the waiting room, after which she wonders how she ended up in the carriage. The brunette claims that he didn't want to wake her up and thought that the girl was very tired, so he moved it himself, her into the carriage. So he apologizes if he embarrassed her. Miel then cries out with apologies and claims that she's caused him trouble again, but he replies that everything is fine. And it must have been hard for her to prepare for the wedding alone. She thinks that's why he's so attentive. After which she says that on the contrary, Mrs. Eliza helped her with a lot of things. Her first to the servants, but they were already very tired with her. And it's already late, so he asks if it's okay if they do it tomorrow. The Count extends his hand to the young lady and welcomes her into the house. The protagonist extends her hand in return and realizes that they have finally successfully overcome their first marital difficulty. At least that's what she thought. Well, when they approached the bed, the young lady screamed in shock. Are they really going to sleep together? And the Count suggested that she not shout like that, and that she should not say anything that would arouse the servant's suspicions. Miel wonders if the Count isn't the least bit embarrassed about sleeping with her, and if they'll be sharing a bed. And they even decorated the bedroom with it. The man claims the estate was built a long time ago, so the layout is very different from modern houses, which is inconvenient, but he hopes for understanding. In modern estates, the couple has both separate apartments and a common space, one room together, and the girl wonders how this can be understood. At this time, the brunette tells her to lie down on the bed, because he will sleep on the sofa, while the young lady screams out loud, "And how can His Excellency sleep on the couch when he doesn't even fit on it?" And the guy asks what they should do then, after which the young lady screams that she will sleep in the chair, and the brunette asks, "She think this is normal?" The girl replies that it's a normal place to sleep and that he's the boss, so he's supposed to sleep on the bed. But the guy then suggests that they stop and asks what her opinion of him is. At this time, the maid announces that dinner is ready, after which the man says to bring it in and states that first they need to rest. The main character asks why they suddenly brought wine, and she tells the guy that the wedding went well, only thanks to her efforts, and he really appreciates it. After all, a girl always works hard. The young lady then thinks, "Oh, that's it." And it's as if they're at a corporate party. At this point, the brunette asserts that he is really counting on her in the future and asks if she will raise a glass. The young lady then says that she is right and wonders if the count is always like this. Maybe that is why she likes him. After which, the young lady drinks. The man drinks wine and wonders what they should talk about now. Mill thinks small talk isn't his strong point. After which she claims that she heard that no one was received in the palace today, and there was not even a dinner party. Today, only one message was sent from the palace, and this seems like some kind of reproach on their part. But the brunette tells the girl not to think about it, because they haven't made any official statements. After which, he asks if she has completely forgotten that they are newlyweds. So let her rest at least today, and let the whole bed be in her favor. The young lady only continued after that. She drinks wine and the brunette asks if she wants to know something about him. The main character then asks if he is talking about getting to know him, to which the guy replies that it will be easier to pretend to be husband and wife if they know more about each other. Well, if she has nothing to ask, then okay. After which the young lady thinks that she already has enough questions for a whole volume, but most of all, she wants to know about whom His Excellency would like to marry. Then, the guy then asks if she's really interested. The young lady wonders if it was too straightforward, and then says that they are effectively married, and it is not forever. Sooner or later, he will still get married for real, and then who would he marry? The guy replies that he had never seriously thought about it before, and in principle, he never thought that he would get married. And if it happens, he'll probably marry someone like her. And she might be effective, but she's still his wife. Therefore, if they had married for the truth, it would hardly have been any different. The main character then asks His Excellency if he's really thought of her that way all this time. The guy then says that Miel has misunderstood everything, and the young lady asks if that means he would marry someone like her. The guy is silent for a bit after this, but then asks if she is already drunk, to which the girl replies that no, she is as sober as a judge. After which, the brunette suggests she go to bed. A short time later, the girl is already in bed, and the brunette is on the couch. After which, the main character turns to his lordship and tells him to lie down on the bed. The guy asks if she has always been so stubborn, and what kind of husband would allow his wife to sleep on the couch. Afterwards, the young lady suggests they sleep together, which makes him embarrassed. Miel insists the bed is large, and there's enough room for everyone, and also that the servants shouldn't see them sleeping separately. That's why she suggests sleeping together, and let him not be afraid because she won't pester him. The brunette then says that he didn't think she would react so quickly, and a little while later, they are already lying in bed. The count then turns to Miel, but realizes that she is already asleep and sees a strand of hair on her face. The man reaches out to straighten her hand, but then pulls away. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up and realizes she wasn't sleeping alone. At this point, the brunette insists she's up early. Miel immediately jumps out of bed, and the guy asks why she's so surprised, since she was much bolder last night. The main character remembers all this and thinks that the wine really went to her head, after which the girl apologizes and claims that she had too much wine and did not think about what she was saying. The count replies that he is used to inconveniences, so if she doesn't mind, he would prefer to continue sleeping separately, to which the young lady agrees, but wonders if he really doesn't see her as a woman at all, and yet she would have loved to prolong this moment. After breakfast, the count went for a walk and she began to manage the estate. Smolensky then turned to his mistress and said it was a great honor for him to continue serving her, and he will show her everything in the estate so she can rely on him no matter what. The young lady then agrees and says that she is counting on Dietrich. The boy then realizes that his mistress has finally begun to speak like a noblewoman and is delighted by it. But the young lady thinks that in fact she still can't get used to it. A little while later, they are already walking around the estate, and the girl meets new servants. When they enter one of the rooms, the young lady is surprised and asks if there is a piano there. The guy replies that Countess Enol often played it, and he still remembers those enchanting melodies. The main character then opens the notebook with notes, but sees a child's drawing there and wonders what he's doing there. Well, then the girl remembers that a child used to live there. She wonders if the other countess also played the piano, after which the girl asks if she should learn too. Well, when she looks at the butler's face, the one who says she was playing is a little surprised. The guy then comes to his senses and says that the former countess often sat down for him. But this does not mean that a lady must now necessarily learn to play the piano. The young lady says that it is clear and thinks that she blurted out something without thinking. But after Mr. Chaos was plunged into eternal sleep, the former countess lost her title, and probably all the servants were deeply shocked then. Therefore, she had to be more careful, but no matter how much she thought about it at that moment, Dietrich's face showed not so much grief, but rather fear. And soon the girl noticed that absolutely everyone in the estate had this fear. A little while later, the pink-haired maid greets the mistress and states that her name is Layla, and that she is very happy to meet her. Miel replies that she is also very glad to meet her, and the maid thinks that it seems the rumors were not true, and the mistress is really very kind. The butler at this time whispers to the young lady that it seems her maids. They loved her very much, and he was also happy to serve her well. Let the lady punish him with all severity for every mistake. The main character thinks that God grant her strength, and yet the atmosphere in the estate is quite pleasant, as everyone is still very kind. The girl was afraid that everyone was still recovering from the former count's recent plunge into eternal sleep. But it is gratifying to see that life in the estate continues, after which the young lady looks at these two. But when she looks to the side, she sees a basement and wonders if it's really there. The main character wonders what's in that basement, after which the maid doesn't even know what to answer the guy with red hair, then breaks the silence and claims that there is a wine cellar there. After all, you couldn't think of a better place, and this cellar is right next to the kitchen. The main character asks if this is really true, and the butler claims that everything has been thought out down to the last detail. After all, they knew how to build estates back then. The young lady then looks at the butler and understands that at that moment, that strange expression flashed across Dietrich's face again, just like that time when he tried to hide something behind a smile. And he had exactly the same expression when she mentioned the former countess. But the girl also wonders why this is so, and what happened in the wine cellar, and more importantly, why is everyone so frightened? The young lady then turns to Dietrich. But at that very moment, someone turns to the lady, and Dietrich says that this is his father. At that very moment, the man approaches the guy and hits him on the head, after which he claims that he told him not to call him that at work. The guy then apologizes, but claims he's the one causing the scene in front of the mistress. The man then hits the guy again and says he's found something to hide behind, and that he should treat her properly first and foremost, and treat her like a girlfriend. The main character then tells Ludwig that everything is fine and she doesn't need to hit him. The man apologizes to his mistress and promises that it won't happen again. He also claims he was looking for her to tell her that she had received mail. The girl asks if that's really true, after which the man replies that yes, she was sent an invitation to a reception. A little while later, the count asks if the girl is talking about a reception at Countess Leonore's. He also asks when it will happen, to which the young lady replies that in 4 days. And the count sits down next to the young lady and says that she quickly, although she can be understood, because she really wants to meet the young lady. And then it's time to start getting ready. The girl replies that she's talking about the same thing, as she was told she's responsible for choosing his lordship's suit. The guy then asks who told her that, to which she replies that it was Dietrich. The count then asks if the girl knew him before their pact, but the girl understands that if she reveals that they met while entering his brother's eternal sleep, she'll reopen old wounds. After which she says that, yes, and the brunette thinks why she doesn't want to answer this question. Then he turns around and thinks he doesn't care what's going on between them. The young lady replies that it would really help her if he told her more about himself, what his favorite color is, or what he pays attention to. But the guy replies that he doesn't have a favorite color, and the young lady wonders if he might like a certain style of clothing, to which he replies that he doesn't know, after which the girl tells His Excellency that she knows that he has had a lot to do lately, and if it's hard for him to find time, then it's okay, and she'll go alone. But the guy suggests that she not talk nonsense, because people usually appear in pairs at receptions. And besides, this is her first reception as his wife, so how can he let her go alone? But the girl says that he already has enough work to do, so she doesn't want to burden him even more. And Mrs. Eliza taught her everything very well, so she won't get into trouble. The brunette then claims that he is not worried about this at all, after which he looks at the young lady, and he claims that, moreover, attending such events is also part of his responsibilities, and he cannot blame everything on her. So they'll go to the reception together. The girl then tries to object, but ultimately doesn't. But the Count claims that he cannot say that he likes any particular style, because after all, he is a military man, so what could one expect from him? He will be satisfied with anything that suits the occasion, and the main character says that this is understandable. Her to help him that time, and the main character after this becomes embarrassed and tries to forget that awkward situation, but cries out, does he really still remember that incident? The brunette replies that he is not so shameless as to forget about the people who help him. But be that as it may, they don't have time to figure out his preferences. So let the girl choose everything herself, and he'll like whatever she chooses because he trusts her taste. The main character nods after this, and then she even insists that she won't disappoint him, after which they part ways. And the guy, turning to the young lady, realizes that her eyes sparkled so brightly like precious stones. A little while later, the butler asks the young lady if the Count has completely entrusted her with his outfit for the reception. He also claims that he didn't dress up much before. It's enough for the player that his clothes aren't too bright or scented. After which he suggests that the lady do the same, and this time gather the Count based on her taste. The girl then understands that, of course, Mrs. Eliza taught her how to choose jewelry and other accessories, and this is all wonderful, of course, but it is one thing to simply know and another to have good taste. And besides, she does not know at all what the Count likes. Then the young lady thinks they will do so. A little while later, she turns to the maid and confirms. She noticed that the Count rarely wears such clothes and asks if they suit him, after which the girl picks out various outfits. Then another one asks if that's too much. The maid replies that it probably is and suggests saying something a little more subdued. The butler, meanwhile, watches all this with a smile on his face, after which he says that the lady did not get down to business energetically. Miel understands that when she chose the gift at the Count's request, and even when she chose the wedding dress, she was very afraid of making the wrong choice. But now the person she cares about asked her to choose what she likes, and he said to trust her taste. The girl then looks at the shirt and thinks that it probably won't suit him, although anything the Count wears will suit him, and in the end, she settled on a sapphire tailcoat for him and an amethyst dress for her. The Count didn't say anything specific about her choice. He only asked what she would say, to which she replied that it suited him very well, and the guy thanked her. The young lady understands that this is also one moment that she will remember with warmth. Among other invitations, they accepted Countess Leonore's invitation for several reasons. Firstly, their families are friends, and several generations ago, when the Countess's family was in dire straits, the county did everything to help them, so their families are still on very good terms. Secondly, the Countess is a significant figure in social circles and expected a warm welcome. The woman then says she is honored to welcome them to her party and hopes they enjoy it. She also says that His Excellency is truly as handsome as they say, after which the main character thanks the Countess. She also understands that you never know how sincere everything is with you. Better place for her debut as a countess, but she still understands that enemies are everywhere. Some are suspicious of her, and some want to test how she will cope with the role of a countess. And there will always be those who just want to make fun of those who are not from their circle. At this time, the woman says that she remembered this, and asks if Countess Arctis is from Canheim, but she was there as Terrace, and she really liked the city because there is such nature there. So it's such a shame that everything is now in ruins. The girl also asks what the Countess has to say about this, and she wanted to ask if she begged for alms, because the girl heard that when she met the Count. She was a refugee, after which the girl asks if the Countess will tell their love story. The Count then asks how rude one must be to ask such a thing about the young lady, but she only states that yes, and that is all. After all, she begged the Count on her knees to give her at least some work, and they were refugees, and were plunging into an eternal sleep from hunger in this city. The woman then asks if that's really true, and she says it so calmly, but the young lady asks if she should behave any differently. Of course, the lady did not want to embarrass her in any way, but one should be careful with such jokes. After all, you should never joke about doubles. When a woman asks what she's suddenly so serious about, she's only trying to lighten the mood. Miel understands that perhaps the first impression of her was different. The girl then looks at the Count and immediately becomes embarrassed, after which she turns away. The guy remembers every time the young lady behaved like this. A little while later, he goes out onto the balcony. The main character turns to His Excellency, and he asks if she has finished talking with the ladies, to which the girl replies that the Countess was extremely polite to hers. The girl also claims he seems worried about the situation at dinner, but everything is fine. The guy replies that it's unpleasant to hear such things, but the girl claims that this is part of her duties, after which the guy claims that he also knows what war is. On the battlefield, he experienced all its horrors, and the girl cannot close her eyes to this insult as if it were some kind of trifle. The young lady then claims that she came to tell him that now everyone will dance, and it wouldn't hurt for them to join in either. The guy then claims he's a bad dancer, but the young lady claims that Mrs. Eliza taught her everything turn it off. The brunette says that he understood and offers to go. When they leave the balcony, the young lady takes the guy by the hand, which surprises him, and he asks her what she's doing, to which the girl replies that she heard that at such parties, one should behave exactly like this. And they also told her she was being too reserved with the Count. The guy says that's it, then declares it's clear and suggests they go. Then they move on, and the guy realizes that today, the young lady seems completely different. And she smells so delicious. But then the Count becomes completely embarrassed by such thoughts. Mel asks if he's feeling bad since he's all red, but the guy replies that everything is fine. Miel then says that where is he? He's all covered in sweat, and maybe he was poisoned by the tea, or the girl has a cold. Then she comes closer and closer to him, and the brunette only gets embarrassed, after which he thinks she's too close. The prince is in the carriage at this point, and the woman screams, "What's wrong with this Miel?" After all, does the prince see what she said about the war being a joke for her? But let this girl remember where she comes from. And she behaves this way because next to her is her hero, her husband. But then the prince tells the girl not to be angry with her. And I thought how hard it must have been for her in a war-torn city. She behaves this way because she has had to go through a lot. So let the girl understand this. The lady then says that His Highness is right. Trip over the hem of her own dress someday. After this, the guy realizes that back then, this girl didn't seem so brave to him at all. That's why she's quite an interesting woman. The main character realizes that in the end, they never got to dance. The Count felt ill, and they, having apologized to the owners, immediately went home. Now the girl claims that it looks like the temperature is still there, but the guys say that everything is fine, so she should go and rest. Miel thinks that since they returned, he has only gotten worse because the Count has turned even redder. When they go to bed, the young lady realizes that her husband cannot sleep, after which she gets out of bed and heads off somewhere. The man then looks at the door, a little surprised. A little while later, the young lady returns. When she enters the room, she's a little surprised, and the brunette asks if everything is okay. Miel replies that she made them some tea. It helps with headaches and calms them down, and also helps them sleep. The guy claims he's never tried anything like this, and the young lady replies that she mixed the herbs herself. The man then thinks it's purple tea and drinks it. The young lady asks if he doesn't like it, and should I bring something else, after which the guy says that it is delicious, and thanks the girl for taking care of him. The young lady then smiles and says that it is nothing, and she is also glad that he liked the tea. At this point, the brunette says that he really does calm her down, and asks if working in the administration was really so hard that she started making calming tea. The girl replies that it's not that it was easy, but she remembers that time with warmth. The brunette then says that he hopes so, after which he tells the girl to sit down and asks where she learned to count. since in wartime she would hardly have been able to learn. Miel replies that her grandmother taught her, and that she was very educated and taught her more than just counting. She herself is from a count's family. The guy then asks if she is really a countess, to which the girl replies that yes, and she is from the Dagover family. This is a very noble family. After they're silent for a while, the brunette decides to break the silence and says it's clear, and also asks what she did after work. And did she ever leave early? So he asks how the girl spent her free time. And don't let her say it never happened. Miel replies that it happened many times, and she was resting. But then the girl asks why he's suddenly asking about this. The Count insists that she doesn't have to answer if she feels uncomfortable, after which he hands the girl some tea. She claims that everything is fine, and she just thought that he suddenly became interested in getting to know her better. Miel at that moment becomes a little embarrassed and wonders what she is talking about and who just pulled her tongue. The girl claims that she is pretending to be his wife, so he needs to get to know her better, and asks if she understands correctly. Miel thinks that even the Countess at the reception noticed, after which she begins to wonder why she even took the Count's arm. But the brunette probably thinks that she is a real clingy one, after which the girl thinks that she needs to be calmer. Agraf then claims that he simply wanted to know more about her. That's all. The main character then becomes embarrassed and turns back to her tea. She also thinks that she doesn't want to be hurt later. After all, her hopes will not come true anyway, and the girl thinks about what to do. At this time, Dennis tells his sister that this cannot go on any longer, and that he needs to tell his sister everything. The girl then turns to her brother and says that he himself knows how hard Miel tried for them. The young man then claims that their sister definitely did not want this to happen to them now, after which he suggests to his sister to simply leave because there will be no academy. A little while later, the butler tells the young lady that he thinks they need to buy more silverware, and he was told that they have some very nice tableware in stock. Although silver is difficult to maintain, the more of it in the house, the better. The girl replies that they will do just that. The boy then claims that the food budget has been cut because the number of nights has been reduced. The young lady then replies that it is fine, and she will study everything carefully, after which she looks at the papers. But then he suddenly turns to Dietrich and asks what he thinks their relationship is like. The guy asks if the lady wants to talk about her relationship with him, because if so, he's at a loss to answer. The girl replies no, and she's talking about the relationship between her and the Count. The guy then says he understands, and the young lady claims that she heard the maids saying that the Count was looking at her differently than before. The guy then asks if the girl is talking about how he stares at her, and he has already heard about it too. They're newlyweds, so there's nothing unusual about it, and the change of scenery usually makes couples feel like they've fallen in love all over again. The young lady then asks if he too feels like the Count has changed somehow, after which the guy is about to answer something, but at that very moment, someone enters the room and addresses the two. The young lady asks if something has happened, and Layla says that Miss Selina and Mr. Dennis are waiting for her there, after which the main character approaches these two and asks what happened and whether they have any problems at the academy. After all, they should be in class. Now Selina immediately runs up to her little sister and hugs her. The main character then asks what is wrong and what happened, and the girl replies that her friends hate her. The main character then asks what this means. The girl then claims that some of them initially started talking to her because she thinks they knew who her sister was. Well, they grew up in different families, and it was hard for her to fit into their company, and only today did she finally understand this. One of the classmates told the girl what it was, after which she apologized and said that she was still the same. The girl also said that she didn't do it on purpose and asked if the girl understood, after which she also said that she would also start stuttering, and maybe that way Selina would understand better. Miel thinks she wanted to answer them in her heart, but she couldn't, and her sister did so much for them to study there. Dennis claims that Selina can no longer go to the academy because she can no longer sit in the same class as those snakes. The main character asks him what he's talking about. He insists that the girl kept saying she didn't want to drop out of the academy because of her sister, but as soon as he saw her, she burst into tears. She must have been keeping it all to herself for a long time. Miel understands that she's a presumptuous noblewoman who has no idea what it means to beg. She endured all the insults directed at her, but my sister shouldn't have to endure this, and it's her fault because she didn't foresee that this could happen. And her Her sister suffered because of her selfishness. Now the girl claims she understands that she will pick up her sister's documents from the academy, and then they will decide what to do next. The young man then suggests finding a teacher, and the nth lady asks if he talks about it, after which the guy says yes. And they can afford to hire teachers for every subject. He's also confident they'll teach just as well as the academy. The young woman replies that this is true, but she understands that she cannot make a decision alone since she first needs to consult with the count, after which she thinks it's okay if she asks him about it. The brother then tells his sister that he's not asking her to solve all their problems for them. After all, today, they came simply to talk about the situation, and he wants to protect Selena himself. So he will figure everything out himself, after all he is her older brother. The main character thinks that she understands how he feels, but he can't cope alone, after which she tells Dennis that I need her to solve everything, and they both suffered because of her selfishness. The guy then shocked asks what she's saying, since it's not her fault, and he's really doing well. The main character then asks if this is really true, after which the guy just looks away. And then he claims that he is always late, and the girl knows, and in general, what a bunch of Count's offspring will do to him. If someone is asking for trouble, he simply doesn't pay attention, so everything is fine with him. And he is more worried about Miel, because things are already hard for her right now, so he doesn't want her to worry about them too. The young lady then asks what it means it's not easy because she married the love of her life and doesn't know Igor. So how can she not help them, especially with such a trifle as school? So let them not worry about anything and go home. Dennis nodded in agreement, and he and Selena returned to the mansion on Inez Road. Dietrich dealt with the academy for her. He claimed he had already filed his expulsion form and would soon submit a request for a leniency for Mr. Dennis, who had been expelled. The main character then asked shocked if he had really been expelled, after which she realized that all that was left was to ask the Count to find a teacher for her home, and he helped her arrange for her brother and sister to attend that academy, and now she wants to take them away from there. So the girl thinks whether it's too much to ask him to find private teachers, but a little while later, the man says that it is okay, and the young lady asks if he has made his decision. The guy then asks if he didn't promise that he would help her brother and sister get a good education. And besides, she rarely asks him for favors, and finding a teacher is not that difficult, so she shouldn't worry. The young lady then asks if they can then find teachers for each subject, to which the guy replies that of course, and that is what they will do. True. The butler says that it will not be easy to find a teacher of etiquette and rhetoric, since usually noble ladies do this, but they are all terribly proud and very picky when choosing students. The brunette claims that he is right, because they will quickly find a lady who agrees to become their companion. The main character replies that this is true, after which the guy suggests asking one of her relatives. And also tomorrow we'll go together to see the Marquis of Dagover. Well, the young lady will then understand that his family, she turned away from her grandmother. At the funeral, someone said that their daughter was the descendant of a noble family and was suffering in this remote place. Someone else asked why she married that worthless Count Quarto, and she fell madly in love. Someone else said that they were unlucky with their son-in-law, and it would be better if the woman lived like everyone else rather than get involved with the family, Quarto. Their daughter is at least trying her best to restore the family to its former glory. At this time, someone says that she is sure that in the end, everything will be fine for them, after which the young lady turns to her mother. And he asks if she's sent the letter to the Count and if they're already on their way. But after that, the woman suggests that Miel never mention those people again. They are heartless people who don't care about their family, and from now on, she suggests pretending that they don't know them, after which I asked the girl if she understood, to which she replied that she did. Now the main game just sits there dejected, and the Count realizes that she doesn't look happy, after which the girl asks if the Count thinks that her relatives will be happy to see her. But the man asks if this is not so, after which the young lady claims that she does not know what exactly happened between her grandmother and the Count, but she thinks her grandmother was always waiting for news from her family, after which the man is silent for a moment, and then he claims that it seems the Count's family also wanted to talk to her, but apparently, because of their status, they could not do it first. They must have been afraid of what people would think if they saw them trying to contact a distant relative after having recently achieved high status. It is unlikely that they want to meet her only because of family feelings, but they still take the first step rather than hesitate. And maybe then she will be the first to go to meet them, of course, if she herself is ready. The young lady recalls her grandmother saying that her family disowned her when she married Quarto, and they're so unhappy. Afterwards, the girl recalls how her mother, with tears in her eyes, told her they were heartless people who didn't care about their family, and from that day on suggested they pretend they didn't know them. A little while later, someone says that the lady has come all this way to get to them and must be tired. The Count also claims the girl bears a striking resemblance to Catherine Miel, realizes this is Count Dagover. He has the same violet eyes as his grandmother, and his facial features and manner of speech are reminiscent of hers in many ways. At this time, the man claims that he is Catherine's brother, and if the girl is comfortable, then she should call him grandfather. The young lady then asks him if he would be comfortable if she addressed him like that, to which he replies that he is very glad to meet them and asks what they owe each other. But at that very moment, Bernard interrupts the man and asks him to treat his wife with respect, to which the other count replies that, yes, after which he asks forgiveness from Countess Arctis and claims that he was rude to her, so he introduces himself again more formally. The man then claims that Catherine has always been a smart and intelligent girl. He also often heard that it was she who needed to become the head of the house, and not him, so when she left the family, they were all deeply saddened. Their mother cried for many days in a row, and there was not a day when she did not think of Catherine. She kept saying that she hoped their girl was very happy, but the young lady claims that she sent a letter, where she asked them to come to her funeral. The girl also claims that she delayed the funeral as long as she could, thinking the letter hadn't reached them yet, and then wonders if it was really that hard for them to come back then. But the man claims that they did not receive any letter, and this is the first time he hears about it, after which he wonders if his sister has fallen into eternal sleep. The man almost cries after this, and the main character wonders if they really didn't know anything, but her mother said that they turned their backs on them. Meanwhile, Bernard insists that they'll take a stroll in the garden and come back. For now, let them try to calm down. The main character then agrees with his lordship and follows him, but when she turns around and sees the state her uncle is in, she gets a little upset. When the girl is in the garden, the Count claims it was foolish of him and that he shouldn't have offered to meet him. The young lady insists that they weren't lying, and the guy says that the letter could easily have been lost, and not only that they lived far away, but also in the mountains. Miel claims that after the war, they would not have found them even if they had wanted to, because all records about the family burned to the ground. The guy replies that everything is probably as they say, but the girl wonders what if they got it all wrong. And Grandma's family missed her terribly, so maybe it was time to forgive them. Brenda then claimed that when he suggested going to the Count's, it was clear that the girl didn't really want it, but then she changed her mind, so the guy asks why. The young lady claims that she has something to say to the Count's family, and the guy then claims that they should probably go back and finish their conversation. Miel understands that she wanted to tell that the people who could have become her family finally understood, and maybe they think differently. But her grandmother is wise and far-sighted. When the young lady is about to open the door, he hears someone claim that this girl is not what they imagined. Therefore, they just need to show more concern, and apparently she behaved this way because they did not show her due respect. Someone else says that she is simply pathetic and wonders why they treat her as if she is someone special, and that it was her grandmother who decided to run away, and that they are also to blame. Then, one woman claims that the girl came to ask to teach etiquette to her stuttering younger sister, and she understands correctly, and how did she even have the nerve to do so? But the man screams that enough is enough, and that girl has problems with speech, so is it really so difficult to understand her situation? The woman then says that they shouldn't expect good manners from them right away, because where did Catherine get the time and energy to properly raise her children and grandchildren? The girl thinks that's not true, because her grandmother did everything to ensure they had a good education, and for them, it was as if their family never existed, and now they were saying such things. The man then asks if they're really afraid the girl will demand her share of the inheritance, but if so, they shouldn't worry since Catherine sent a waiver of the inheritance. And apparently, now the girls need to get closer to a good family, so let them take pity on the poor thing and be kind to hers. The main character is shocked after this. Agraf only addresses her and tells her to wait for him in the carriage. I'll figure it all out himself. Meanwhile, the main character thinks she needs to tell them that their grandmother lived a completely different life. There were happy times in their family, too. One day, Grandma said the girl looked so happy today, to which the little girl replied to her grandmother that yes, she really liked studying with her. After this, the woman smiled and talked about her granddaughter, saying that she too would teach her everything she knew. Miel recalls how her grandmother wrote in her diary that she did not live up to her parents' expectations and started a family with a man who had nothing to his name. Sometimes she really did come to her senses about her choice, but they had many happy days too, so she lived a happy life. At this moment, the girl heard someone shouting for His Excellency to wait. It turns out it's another count, and he begs them to listen to him too. But the man then asks why he needs to listen to them. Someone insulted his wife, after which another player says that he is very sorry, and his daughter-in-law is guilty before him, so he will severely punish her for this. The man also claims that her Grace is the granddaughter of his only sister, and he could not help his poor sister in any way, but he was glad at least to have her ladyship, so he begs her to listen to them. But after this, the man claims that his daughter-in-law has nothing to do with it, after which the other count is surprised. And he still turns to Count Arctus, asking him to listen, but the guy only gets into the carriage. And he says that the young lady's family could have sided with them, and not with the imperial family. However, they would have caused her even more problems. After this, the main character even starts crying. The guy then asks what she is doing and apologizes, and also says that it is her family. But the young lady tells his lordship that she is truly pathetic because she lives in abundance and does not need anything, and she also lived a good life. The man then says he knows everything perfectly well. Miel understands that although she was born in God-forsaken Canheim, she too has pride and has had many pleasant moments in her life. So she should have just said it right there, that she really liked that life. Well, she probably couldn't stand the pity and the count even more than any insults, because she hoped that they would truly become one family. At this time, Dennis turns to his sister and asks if she has finished her history homework yet. The girl looks very exhausted after this. The young lady realizes she's already found an etiquette teacher for Selena, and we need to be as involved in her education as possible. But Selena's happiness is above all else. Dennis is currently excused from classes and offers his little sister some help, after which she thanks him. His office at this time, after which he remembers how the young lady cried and realizes that he had never seen her sob like that before. And if he hadn't stopped Miel, then she probably would have found the strength to endure it alone, as she always did. Well then, he felt that he needed to intervene, after which the man realizes that it is all his fault. After all, there was not a word about this written in his duties, so he needs to somehow console her. But the man is thinking about how exactly to do this. At this time, the knight enters the room and tells his lordship that he came to talk about knights. The brunette then says that yes, and the knights, as well as the section of utmost importance, must certainly be entrusted to the knights. The man also asserts that he will personally select the knights to accompany Countess Arctus. A little while later, the main character is already in front of the corps of the Knights of Arctus and thinks that it seems like the last time she was there was an eternity ago. But only a couple of months have passed since she left the administrative department. At this time, the count suggests that the girl go quickly, since they do not have much time, to which the young lady agrees and moves on. The girl understands that since they arrived from de Gouver, it seems the count has been in a bad mood. The girl also thinks that perhaps the actions of the other count somehow offended or humiliated him, but he would hardly worry about something like that. The main character then asks His Excellency if they came to the cours on business, and if she made a mistake when allocating the knight's budget. The young man replies that no, and that it had nothing to do with it since he came with her, so that she could personally select the knights to serve as her guard. The main character then thinks about what he was talking about, after which the count states what he was thinking about, that if he's not with her squad, she might need help. The main character is a little surprised by this, and the man claims that he thought about it from the very beginning and chose someone, but the final decision is still hers. The young lady then says that's understandable, and then she sees her old office. The brunette asks if she wants to take a look, as they still have some time to spare. The girl then asks if it's possible, after which she goes up to the table and puts her hand on it. The guy claims that she stares at the empty table and wonders if there is something there, after which the girl replies that there is nothing there. She just has a strange feeling. The Count claims that she has given her all to this work, and the young lady smiles, after which she claims that, frankly, she really enjoyed working there. The man then claims he thought she sat there all day long because of her debts, but of course he understood there was more to it. Miel says that at some point work evolved into something more. On her way home, she would often stop by the market and watch people wrap up their workdays and finish their last chores. She doesn't know why, but it gave her strength. She was so pleased to watch them. The brunette then asks why it's so pleasant, to which the young lady replies that the people have been working hard all day and are now getting ready to go home. And moments like these make you think about life, because in Canheim there was nothing like this. And she also compared herself to those traders in the market, and also worked and made her contribution, sir. The brunette then claims that when everything is over in 3 years, he will return her to work. At that very moment, someone approaches Miss Miel. It turns out to be the staff, and one of them says they're so glad to see her again. One of them then asks if the girl is there for the first time since her wedding, and asks how their newlywed is doing, and whether the Count is being kind to her. The girl then whispers to the boys that His Excellency is there too. But another worker insists that she's their youngest, and already married. Then one of the workers says that they have been rude to her lately, and he wants to apologize for that. Well then, he sees the Count in front of him, and he says that the workers should show respect to the Countess. He also knows that they work together, and are very happy to see Miel again. But rules are rules, after which the guy apologizes and bows, and also claims that he made a mistake. One of them claims to have gravely offended her, and is begging for forgiveness. Miel understands that nothing terrible has happened, but she can't say it out loud. And now she is not an administration employee, but a countess, after which the Count says that they should be more attentive in the future, and they thank him for his kindness. The protagonist understands that everything will be different now. She also turns to the Count and invites him to join the knights. They've been waiting for them for a long time. A little while later, the Count asks if this means that this guy is the only contender, to which he replies, "Yes, and that's all true." The Count asks Allison what's going on since he told him that 5 or 6 people were summoned. But a few hours earlier, one of the candidates said that in the end, there would still be only one choice for the Countess's protection. And then it would be a good idea to immediately get rid of the other candidates, because it's all in the name of the country. Now, Allison claims that this is how he eliminated the other knights, after which he asks how exactly the master will punish him. Brunette says that if Miel doesn't like this knight, he should call others and deal with the rest himself. This knight at this time turns to Her Excellency the Countess and asks if she remembers him. The main character then asks him what he's talking about, after which the guy smiles and says that he knew she didn't remember him. They first met on a fine spring day. The cherry trees were still in bloom, but at that very moment, a lady with red hair runs into the room and screams at them to wait. She also apologizes for being late and claims that her name is Catherine, and that she is also applying for the position of the Countess's guard. One of the knights then asks how she ended up there, and the main character just smiles, after which he waves to her, but Catherine only bows in response, and then moves on. Miel thinks she understands everything, and now she is a countess, so Annex and Catherine can no longer be friends, and their friendship ended. At this point, the knight says that this is his entire story, and he very much hopes that Her Grace will choose him. The girl then says that she needs to think about Allison again, claiming that now it is Lady Catherine's turn. So he asks her to share her expectations and goals as the Countess's guard. The girl replies that it is exactly so, after which she tells Her Excellency that she knows how to handle flowers. The main character is surprised after this and asks if this is really true, but the girl claims that this is not all. After all, from the etiquette of embroidery to the rules of tea drinking, she knows everything that a true lady should know. And if something happens, she has excellent self-defense skills and will be her personal servant, who will also protect her. And let the lady not forget that she is the second daughter of Count Leiden and will make an excellent servant. After which, she also tells Her Grace that she will be her bodyguard and personal servant. Another knight then says that Catherine is too eager to grab a piece of the pie and that it's unfair. Allison then tells Catherine that he made it clear that she cannot combine 2 positions, after which she asks what her ladyship will say. The girl understands that she knew perfectly well that it would be in Catherine's spirit to offer to become both her guard and her servant. After all, people need to be used as effectively as possible, and she worked as an administrator, so she herself understands how tempting this offer is, and only Catherine, who knows her better than anyone, could agree to such a thing. But the girl then realizes that this is not what she wanted to say, after which she ponders why she thought about it. After all, it's far more important now that Catherine took this step first. The girl then drops to one knee and tells her ladyship that she would be only too happy to be her bodyguard, or even an extra servant, and simply wants to be by her side at all times. After all, no matter what happens, her feelings will remain unchanged. The young lady then thinks that Catherine will remain by her side, even if their status changes, and she will always consider her a friend, because that's how it will always be. The Count then tells the young lady that he thinks she's already made up her mind, after which the protagonist replies that she is, and says she's relying on Catherine. A short time later, she and the Count are walking somewhere, and the man claims they haven't been there in a while. The girl then says she enjoyed watching him and Catherine strolling or exercising together after dinner. The Count claims he didn't know they were so close, after which the young lady smiles and says she's her first close friend in the capital. The man claims he's glad someone like her will be by the young lady's side, and she replies that she's truly very lucky to have her. Besides, in 3 years, she'll no longer be his wife, and that would be unfair to Catherine, since she gave up everything to serve her. Well, at least she has somewhere to go back to. The man then says it's clear, and understands that he hadn't thought about it at all, and the young lady insists that they're treating her very badly now, because they're deceiving her. The brunette then says that's right, and it's the same hallway, where they accidentally crossed paths on her first day there. The young lady replies that it's true, then asks if he really remembered the guy. He replies that he didn't exactly remember, because it somehow popped into his head, and today, the girl made him remember the past. The young lady claims that it's probably all because of the place, after which the man claims that he will definitely make sure that she is accepted back, and that she will return everything that she had to give up. The main character then tells his lordship that it's unnecessary, after which the guy shocked asks what she's saying, considering she had to give up everything for this marriage. The girl replies that it's not true. Her brother and sister, as well as Catherine, are with her, and she even enjoys her duties as a countess. She will always remember those times fondly, but now something new has come into her life, and the man asks what it is. And the girl replies that this is time spent alone with His Excellency, which surprises the guy, and the main character thinks that even a fool would have guessed now. After which she says that she didn't mean anything like that, and the brunette shocked asks if she really enjoys spending time with him, to which the girl replies that of course she really enjoys it, because in fact she really does. But at the same moment, the main character notices one of the windows, and wonders if there is a shadow there, after which she asks His Excellency if there is really anyone else in the outbuilding at such a time. The man replies that this is impossible, because they lock the outbuilding in the evenings, and a mouse has gotten in there. At this time, the man who is in the outbuilding is looking at some documents, after which he hears the Count and the young lady heading there, and the Count at the same moment opening the door. But he sees that there's no one there anymore, and the window's open, so he says the man managed to escape. The man then climbs in, and the main character asks what His Excellency is doing, after which he jumps out. The girl immediately runs to the window and asks if he's okay, then screams that she's going to get Lord Allison. At this point, the man sees the same reporter from the press conference lying on the ground, after which he asks what he was doing there and whether he really came for material for new gossip. But he won't find anything, and if he wanted to sniff out something about Caius, everyone has known everything for a long time. So let him dig as much as he wants, but he still won't get anywhere. The man then tells His Excellency that he didn't expect any other answer. At this point, the main character runs up with a knight and asks if this is the same journalist. The man replies that yes, it is him, and that he looks similar, but he doesn't particularly want to talk to them. He then asks Allison to take him to security, to which he agrees. And the reporter then says that he is Count Arctus, and asks if he is too harsh on a man of the people. But Allison suggests that this guy calm down, because he illegally entered the protected area. After the knight leads him away, the reporter claims they'll regret it and soon see how far he can go. The heroine then turns to his lordship, but he remains silent. The guy remembers how, a little while ago, he heard some kind of rumble, after which he immediately came running and claimed that he rushed towards the rumble, but asked what Caius was doing there. His brother lay under the books with a smile on his face, after which he thanked his brother and claimed he always helped him. But Bernard merely asked how the boy could laugh when he was almost hit by books, and fortunately not. The boy apologized, but his brother insisted he was always working and barely slept. So it was no wonder it happened. He'd fainted last time, so he shouldn't force himself to work if he wasn't feeling well. Caius then said that only his brother worried about him so much. The man then asked where his wife was, and the guy replied that that was why he was trying to look strong and was trying his best to keep up appearances in front of Cora, so he was glad that his brother was late again. Bernard then asked if they'd gone to the banquet, after which his brother asked him not to start, as it was part of his job description. But the man then asked why he'd brought Raphael along, as he felt like he wanted to show off in front of the ladies. The boy then insisted that his son wasn't just an heir because he was unusually smart for his age. Even his teachers said so. But Bernard then asked his brother why he was always defending his wife. After all, she didn't do anything for him, even when he collapsed. The boy then asked what his wife should have done. But Bernard insists his brother knows what he's talking about, after which the guy was a little surprised. And then he even apologized for causing so much concern, because due to his health, he doesn't know what will happen tomorrow. But he still decided to marry Cora, and he has a feeling that he deceived her. Bernard said afterward that the Count had proposed marriage first, and he could have refused, but why did the boy decide to marry her? His brother claimed that perhaps he liked the fact that Cora was a very strong and determined girl, while he was very shy and weak. However, Bernard insisted that his brother wasn't weak at all, after which Caius, smiling, insisted that only his brother told him so, and if anything happened, he was the only one he could trust. A short time later, the boy read in the newspaper that one of the reporters had confirmed this, that Bernard Arctus visited the stables on the day when Caius Arctus was in a horseback riding accident, and it's quite possible he did something to the horse his brother was riding. Further investigation proved impossible due to the Count's concealment of the facts, but they're hoping the case will be publicized. He'll help uncover the whole truth. The main character now asks how he dared write an article based on nothing but conjecture, and she thinks they should file a complaint, after which she turns to the butler and tells him to prepare all the paperwork. Dietrich claims that it will be difficult to file a complaint against them, and another butler says that perhaps the Count himself does not want this, because even when similar rumors began to circulate at the very beginning, he did not react in any way, and it seems he does not want to make a scandal out of it. The main character then asks if she can help in any way, but one of the butlers insists that the Count said that since she had nothing to do with the matter, she need not make any public comments. After which the young lady says that's understandable. One of the butlers suggests the mistress calm the maids down, as there seems to be a commotion among them. The young lady agrees and thanks the butler. She also realizes that if she worked in the administration, she could probably help somehow. Well, she can't sit idly by. There must be something she can do. After that, the young lady looks at the cups and teapot, and with a smile on her face, thinks she's got an idea. A little while later, the girl is already heading towards the Count with tea and offering him a drink. The man then asks if this is the tea she made him back then, and the main character claims he remembers, then says it's the same tea for headaches. The Count then asks why she suddenly decided to brew it, to which the girl replies that she suddenly thought of him when she saw the tea set in the kitchen. And this tea is also very relaxing, so she drinks it not only when she has a headache. The man then silently looks at the mug and remembers someone saying that the Count had been summoned to a roundtable meeting, and it seemed they wanted to discuss the published article. The tabloids will write even worse stories, so there's nothing to worry about. But will it all end there? After all, there's no smoke without fire. Journalists chased the Count, asking him to answer a few questions and allow them to interview him. Well, only with the young lady does he feel calm, the protagonist asks. His Excellency, how he's feeling, and the young man replies that the tea really does calm him. Mel claims she's glad it helped, after which the guy claims he feels like he can even breathe easier around her, which surprises the young lady and then even smiles. The man thinks, how can this be so strange? His head no longer hurts, and everything that's been bothering him all day now seems so trivial, and he feels so calm. The man also wonders if it's always been so wonderful to sit with someone over tea and chat, but then realizes no, he's happy, because Miel is happy, and because she's decided to show concern. He also wonders if Lilia doesn't want to ask anything, after which she remains silent for a moment. And then she claims it's none of her business, to which he replies that she's right. The guy understands that he himself told her not to interfere, and Miel will do as he told her, because she's polite and kind to him for one simple reason. She's his subordinate, nothing else. She can't feel anything for him. These were the only terms they entered into the agreement on, as there were no feelings whatsoever. And now the guy is wondering why he suddenly regretted this point. Then he's completely surprised. He even thought about regrets causing him to drop his mug. The main character is surprised by this and asks if the Count is unwell or overtired, but he replies that he's fine. The young lady asks if this is true, to which he replies that he said yes, after which she realizes he clearly has feelings for Miel, only she does not feel the same in response, after which the young lady claims that the Count does not look well, and he turned completely red, after which the guy thinks that his feelings are not mutual.